Peace, peace. You know what it is. It's your man SKYZOO Skyzoo live from the borough, and this is the Pay Me No Mind podcast.
This is Ray Flores, ring announcer for Premier Boxing Champions. You are listening to the Pay Me No Mind podcast with my man Wood.
Oh, the Magic Man Malinaji giving a big shout out to the Pay Me No Mind podcast.
What's up, everybody? This is Swift Jerry Hurd, 20-0, 14 knockouts, the new IBF champion of the world, and I'm right here with the Pay Me No Mind show.
Yo, it's your boy John Connor, and you checking out the Pay Me No Mind podcast. It's Aftermath, and ain't nothing after that. Flint, we in the building. It's Connor, what?
You are listening to
Pay Me No Mind
with show host Wood.
This your man Wood. This is the Pay Me No Mind show. As you just heard, getting in another episode. It is June 15th. Tomorrow night, that means that it's going to be the title defense for Errol Spence Jr. against Carlo Ocampa out there in Texas. We'll get into some of that in a minute. Tonight's show has a couple of guests. I have Fred Hawthorne of Barbershop Conversations on YouTube, Silent Heroes on IG, Instagram. You know, Fred is pretty popular, one of the very popular YouTube boxing channels, as well as a lot of financial advice and life coaching and whatnot. Fred's a pretty interesting guy, but he's down in Dallas checking out the fight, doing the fight week coverage and everything. So he's been pretty active this week on Instagram and YouTube. Got him on here to kind of talk about the fight, but we also get into some other things as far as just his, he's obviously he follows the sport, so he's always abreast of what's going on in the game. So we talked about Charlo's victory, Crawford, the talented 147 division, welterweight. Where's my notes right here? What Spence could do after this fight if he is successful in his second title defense. And then we have a quick discussion about looking forward to Mikey Garcia versus Robert Easter Jr. coming up July 28th out in California, I believe, out in Los Angeles. Excuse me. Hey, and quick plug. Tonight's episode is kind of the beverage of choice is this Jackie O's Citra Na Mandala. I don't know if you've checked this one out, but I'm pretty impressed with this beer. It's a single hop Imperial India Pale Ale, 9% alcohol by volume. They come in 4-packs. I think they're about $12 per 4-pack. But very impressive beer. I believe Jackie O's, I want to say it's from outside of, they're located from outside of Columbus. I thought Columbus, Ohio. I could look that up real quick, and I may before I finish the show. But anyway, Jackie O's, I guess they've recently changed this one up because it didn't taste like this last year. So my guy at work, I told him I hadn't came across anything good in the last couple of months, craft beer wise, and he pointed me in the direction of this Citra Na Mandala, and I was very impressed. I'm on like my second 4-pack of the week. Had to pick up another one for this weekend, so kind of enjoyed one of those before going live. Second guest is Jamel Semper Herring. Used to fight at lightweight, but I guess now he's at 130 pounds campaigning. He was on the card. He was actually on the undercard of Lomachenko, Vasily Lomachenko versus Jorge Linares last month at Madison Square Garden in New York City. I was supposed to talk to Jamel that night, but my seats were kind of they were up at the very top, so I wasn't able to move around the building like I wanted to and follow up with him on his performance that night. I believe a 5-round TKO of Juan Pablo Sanchez. But had Jamel on. He was a former Olympian and an Olympic teammate of Errol Spence Jr. and Claressa Shields, who's in action next week at the Masonic Temple in Detroit, Friday night, June 22nd, airing live on Showtime Boxing, a special edition. I think it's also been hailed as It's Our Time to Shine. Claressa takes on what may be her toughest opponent to date in Costa Rica's a unified what is she, super welterweight champion that's moving up to fight for the vacant 2 vacant belts at middleweight. Hannah Gabriels. And then also on that night is Christina Hammer versus Tori Nelson. Christina Hammer is a unified. She has the other 2 belts that Shields and Gabriels aren't fighting for. She's defending those against Tori Nelson. Check out my articles on that, kind of what to look for in that matchup or in those matchups. It's out there at womenofboxing.com. That's womenofboxing.com. I got a couple of pieces out there to support this fight and kind of help with the promotion of it. I'll be in the building next week, hoping to get a lot of good content, whether it's written or video, just kind of depends. It's at the Masonic Temple, which isn't the ideal location if you're trying to move around and cover, fighters and be in multiple places at one time. It's kind of not friendly in that way for somebody to move around. But anyway, Jamel Herring is on here to talk about all of that, as well as talk about his victory, at 130, working with Brian McIntyre. That's Bomac. That's Terence Crawford's head trainer. Also, Herring was in camp with Bud, so we talked about quite a bit, just taking a look between Bud and Errol Spence Jr. Like I said, he was an Olympic teammate of his. I believe that was 2012, I want to say. So I thought it was an interesting perspective to get to with Jamel Herring. And I think that's all of the guests for tonight. I'm going to jump into a couple of entertainment notes before maybe speaking on a little bit of boxing and a little bit of sports. The big news today, which was kind of ended up being fake news, was the release of Nasir by Nas. That was kind of my highlight of the week. Working towards Friday, was expecting to get this Nas project, and unfortunately it did not drop last night at midnight. What I was able to see was on Mass Appeal, which is a record company, magazine, record label, online magazine, YouTube channel. They have artists such as Run the Jewels, Faye Sean out of California, and it was one other person that they have. Can't remember who else is on Mass Appeal Records, but it's kind of this weird just site for the culture, basically, that that Nas is heavily involved with. Not exactly sure what his role is there, but I guess he's part ownership or owner or label head. But I know Mass Appeal was also involved in the Rapture project that is out there with Netflix. But anyway, back to Nasir. 7 tracks following up on this new trend that Kanye has created with Daytona, the joint effort with Kid Cudi. Kids See Ghosts, I believe is the name of that. And then Kanye's new one, Yay, which dropped, I believe, last week, maybe 2 weeks ago now. But the disappointment in Nasir is that it didn't drop. Secondly, in trying to watch the YouTube channel of Mass Appeal, it wasn't, the sound quality on it was pretty terrible. So the big thing about the album, the big kicker in it was that Kanye West was handling the production. I think Nas tweeted out that it's executive produced by Kanye West, and he had a lot of say-so, or some people are saying he curated the tracks for the album and may not have produced them actually. A lot of people were big on this Adam and Eve joint. It might be one of the standouts on there, but all in all, I got to come back maybe next week and do my full review of the album or give my full opinion on it. I really don't want to base it on what's out there on the available to stream, because in my opinion, the video that's out there on the YouTube channel for Mass Appeal, I just really didn't know what the hell I was watching. I don't know if many of the songs are really synced up to the actions of this crowd at the listening party that they had at outside or at Queensbridge in New York. But Nas was there, obviously. Kanye West, I believe, is on the video. Kim Kardashian, I think Lala is out there. A couple other hip hop luminaries, but everybody is standing around. And like I said, I don't think the audio is really linked up to what's going on in the crowd. And I think the audio comes in and out at different points. And just for a first listen and not being able to know the track names or the track titles, I just think it was kind of confusing. And I think they played one or two of the songs, or maybe all of them, twice. I'm pretty sure. I don't know. It just, you know, the new ways of dropping records and releasing projects, you know, they've worked well for Kendrick Lamar, who I think has dropped some at midnight on a Friday. J. Cole has, you know, been a master at doing this. But I just think, and I mentioned it last week with the Black Thought EP, Black Thought, Ninth Wonder, and the Soul Council. For some of these artists, you gotta release it in a manner that represents or works well with what your position is in the game. You know, if we just waited 20 years for Black Thought to drop a project, although there was no issue really with the delivery of that project, it was just more so with it being 5 tracks, one of them being a year and a half or 2 years old. You know, that's a pretty significant release, and I just felt like he cheapened the moment for him releasing the album that was highly anticipated for, you know, real rap heads and whatnot, real hip hop heads. So with the Nas project, again, I would have just thought, just take the time, back it up a little bit, and release it, you know, and let people purchase it and make sure that they hear a version of it that is mastered correctly and sounds good, and let people listen to it. Like I said, I watched the YouTube clip. What's going on the video doesn't really line up with what I'm listening to. I don't think they have the titles of the songs on there, but you can halfway make it out if you looked at the track listing that Kanye tweeted out there. Like I said, I really don't want to go into too much of what I took away from the listening, because I get, without it like being in the proper packaging, it kind of sounds like Untitled 2. I can't say from what I heard that Kanye was really really added value to what the project would be if he wasn't involved. I mean, it kind of sounds a little disjointed with what Kanye is trying to do, and then some of the lyrics. I don't know, man. Not my favorite project, to be honest, by Nas. I think I might have been more of a fan if Rick Ross was the executive producer and brought in the music with his ear and said, "Hey, Nas, you're gonna spit over these 9 to 10 tracks. Let's go." But that wasn't the case. It just seems like musically Kanye got together what he got together, and I don't know if it really worked for me first listen. And it was almost bad because while Nas touches on some of the hot button, social issues at the moment, and that's always a good thing. But then mixed in with that is kind of his Playboy exploits that he goes back to from time to time. I don't know, man. Like I said, I got to check it out in its entirety. I think that'll sound better for me. The main thing here is that it does feature the 7 songs, which Kanye has come out and said that he believes that's the perfect length of an album for today's listeners. I'm not so sure I'm on board with that. And then I look at Nicki Minaj, who has a project coming out. She has 19 tracks on hers. I believe 19. I believe anything over 15 is probably too much. It's probably overkill. But again, Nas has 7 songs. Everything, I believe, is the lead-off joint. There's some song on there that everybody online was excited about, which had a Slick Rick sample from a children's story that was just looped. But I don't know, man. It was two, like I said, with the Adam and Eve joint, and then there was one other one. I don't think it was Bonjour. I can't remember it, but it sounded okay. But all in all, man, I'm going to have to spend a little time with this one and see where I stand with it. That's it for music this week. I did want to touch base on Billion. Showtime Billion season 3 finale was last week, the season 3 finale. And very rarely do I get all giddy, and go running with the superlatives on what a show is, the best ever. This is the best ever. I don't really want to go in that direction, but I do feel like Billions, the season finale was high level. It was good. It was really phenomenal. And I just think the way that they're running the show is one of the best handled, best managed, or best ran shows on TV. What I will give it a lot of credit for is that I don't know about you, but it seems like in a lot of shows lately, they've really cheapened, especially that was Empire, but they've cheapened like what they do, the act of sex or intercourse. A lot of shows have really done a lot of things and moved the plot along in different ways by some simple sex scene. Like everybody is willing to do anything for sex, just to be able to do what they want to do. And I just don't think that's very realistic. And it's a cheap way to, develop a story and make certain things happen in your story. And I think, as an example, because another one that did this was Ozark, didn't really use sex to do a whole lot in its script. But if you remember, if you were a fan of the House of Cards show or House of Lies, damn, I can't remember which one it was now. The one with the one on Netflix with Kevin. Man, I need my computer in front of me. The one where he plays president. I want to say that's House of Cards. But anyway, without opening up my computer and getting that running, what is Kevin's name from the usual suspects. The one that's all kind of fell off the scene after the rape accusation came out with the young guy. Maybe I'll try to find it on my phone real quick. But what I was getting at, in that show where he was president, it was a guy on there, a reporter from the Washington paper, that wanted to do something and was, had really fallen from grace, trying to put some trying to pin some information or some case on the president, and lost his job as a reporter, and I think went to prison for a while for something. He really got screwed over and lost his life, and then he wanted to get the president back, and he needed to get, I think he was trying to get a gun or something, and he was a heterosexual man, and because he wanted to try to do something, he went to do something like I think he was trying to buy a gun, because he actually ended up taking a shot at the president on there. But the guy said, well, I want to sleep with you to do what you want to do. And I'm looking for it right now. And so the guy jumps up and House of Cards is what it was. Francis Underwood with Kevin Spacey, and Robin Wright. Couldn't think of none of that. So in that episode, that reporter goes, and I think he was trying to buy the gun, or he needed to get a car or something so that he could travel to where the president was going to be, where he was going to shoot him. And the guy that he's trying to buy whatever it was from is like, well, I think he gave him that look and mentions that he wanted to have sex with him. And next thing you know, they're in the back seat of this vehicle, because I think the guy worked at a car wash or something. And I'm just sorry. I mean, I don't care. I mean, maybe the dude was at the end of his rope, but I'm sorry. Just out of the blue, I'm not getting ready to have sex with the man just to go do what I'm trying to do. And if you remember, I mean, the president on that show was a little freaky himself and his wife. But that just was very unrealistic that a straight man was going to sit there and just on the spot decide to have sex with another man just to go do XYZ. Trying to find the character who did it. The reporter who lost his life. Lucas, I think was his name, maybe. Lucas Godwin or something. Lucas Godwin. But he was the one, I believe, that, that's him. Just goes and has sex with a dude so he could go get, I don't know what it was, a car or a gun. But I just felt like that was a real cheap use of sex to accomplish something. Like, how is a character going to get something done, or I'm going to give my body up? And I feel like that's one thing about Billions, is they've never really resorted to those types of tricks to move the story along. But back to the finale itself, now that I rambled for a few minutes, I just thought it was phenomenal, man. One thing I forgot to mention last week, that John Malkovich is in it. And I just wondered, is anybody struggling with him kind of reprising his role? And I might have mentioned this, but Teddy KGB, he's Gregor is his name or something. He's a billionaire, a Russian, and Axe has some of his money under his management. But Taylor has split off early in the finale. We find out that Taylor Mason Capital, or Mason Capital, I believe, is a real thing. And she's poached a couple of people, one being McPhee from Axe Capital, and Axe spends the episode trying to get ahead of that situation and make sure, excuse me, and just recover from losing. Taylor had taken on quite a significant role at Axe Capital, and he's trying to deal with that, trying not to lose face on the street, as far as, once the word gets around that X amount of capital has been taken off of their books, and Taylor is quickly gathering and attracting new clients and whatnot. And I just thought that was awesome how they handled that. On the other side with Chuck Rhodes, Paul Giamatti's character, it started feeling very early in it, spoiler alert and everything, but it started feeling like Chuck bit off more than he could chew this year in trying to get rid of his boss, Jockety, I want to say is his name, but it was the attorney general or whatnot, who was kind of making him pursue cases that he didn't want to pursue. And if you know Chuck Rhodes, he doesn't like playing by the rules, and he doesn't like being dictated to. So he set some things in motion to investigate his boss and to remove him. And after he goes and puts together this elaborate plan, by the end of the episode, he actually gets ambushed by Kate Sacker, who I don't know if you know this or not, but this is Felicia Rashad and Ahmad Rashad. Used to be on the NBA show. That's their daughter, which she looks a lot like Ahmad Rashad. But she was like Chuck's right-hand man. And Connerty, who had been sent off and put into exile by Chuck earlier in the season, who was, Connerty was prosecuting Axe, and then that case fell apart. So anyway, Chuck gets ambushed. His boss knew about the investigation. Some other assistant attorney general that he tried to go make the case happen, he actually burned Chuck and sided with Chuck's boss and told Chuck's boss what was going on. So Chuck gets railroaded up out of the building, and Connerty, who Chuck fired about 4 episodes ago when the case against Axe fell apart, this time Connerty is back with the attorney general, and he's given Chuck's job as the head guy at the Southern District or whatever it is that Chuck's been representing the last 2 or 3 seasons. And he actually gets rid of Chuck the same way that Chuck got rid of him. And so the one thing that was crazy was that John Malkovich's character actually wanted to eliminate Taylor Mason, totally remove her, terminate her. And it was like, damn, y'all getting real serious over somebody just taking some clients and moving around some money and whatnot. But I guess it was that serious. But Axe did not oblige Grigor in getting rid of her, killing her. He said he didn't want, he was mad enough to do it, but he said that he didn't want Grigor, having something on him. And he declines it, and Malkovich tells him, well, I'm going to take my money and go with Taylor, because part of my reasoning for investing my multiple $1 billion with you was because they were handling it, that they were a part of the Axe Capital team. So the funny thing was that Grigor told Axe, if you do anything to Taylor that affects me, then we'll run into each other again. And, it could get dangerous, because Grigor is, kind of like not the ugly American, but I guess the savage Russian, the stereotypical Russian. And so that's, I guess, something to look forward to for next year. But it was really well written, man. I mean, the pacing was excellent. It's just one of the smarter, well-ran, well-written, better-run shows that's out there, and it's leaving behind the competition. I won't get into it today, but I do want to touch base on I'm Dying Up Here, which is in season 2. I got a couple of points I want to talk about on dying up here as being, kind of with Billions falling off the map and ending for the season. I'm dying up here is kind of Showtime is like staggering all of their Sunday night shows. I would imagine HBO is doing the same thing with Westworld. But right now, I'm dying up here moves into the prime spot for Showtime Sunday night shows. And the season is pretty good. It'll be interesting to see how it develops, for the remaining 2 or 3 episodes. It might be 3 or 4 at this point. It'll be interesting to see where it goes to finish up the season. I mean, obviously with the Brad Garrett, I believe, from Everybody Loves Raymond, the real tall guy, his brother. His role has been pretty decent this year, and he's been kind of a consistent arc that they've featured this year. But I'll make some points about that next week when I don't have Billions to talk about for 5 to 7 minutes or whatever it was. Also, this time next week, I'm a little sad because I won't be in town. But Luke Cage season 2 gets underway on Netflix. That's June 22nd. Bushmaster is the new villain, and Bushmaster looks slick. I was reading up on Collider.com, and it sounds like their person who reviews television shows, they got to see all 10 episodes this time versus 2 years ago when the first season, I guess they only saw 4 episodes of Luke Cage, and they gave the series a high review. And then when when fans got to see all of the season in its entirety, and obviously we all know that what was it, Cottonmouth passed away very early in that one. It was Cottonmouth, and what was the other cat's name? Can't think of it off the top of my head. But also along with Bushmaster is Alfred Woodard's character, Mariah. Looks like she's a big player in this one. She was a pretty big character in season 1, obviously. But it looks like Luke Cage, looks like some bullets start piercing him in this one. And Bushmaster is I believe from down south, from New Orleans or something. But I look forward to checking it out. Misty Knight is on there. She'll have her bionic arm. I saw some still pictures of that. To be interesting to see what she brings to the Simone McKissick, I think is her name. But Misty Knight is kind of moving forward with her character. I can't remember the name of the little team that she kind of forms up. But we'll learn more about that transition. And the interesting thing this year, I think I might have mentioned it like 3 episodes ago or 4 maybe, is that Pete Rock and CL Smooth, some of their songs will be the titles from Mecca and the Soul Brother, a very one of their signature album. Songs from that album will be the name of each episode, and I believe that the season will conclude with They Reminisce Over You. I think that's the finale, which is one of the most iconic samples, works of production in all of hip hop. But I think that's the finale, and I think Straighten It Out is the episode 2 or something. I don't know if that interests you. You can go on there and check out the titles and the episodes. I don't know if that was Chio Hadari's Instagram page or whatnot, but you can go check out the track list or the episode names, and you kind of get an expectation by the name of the song. I think Lots of Lovin' was one of them. Excuse me. I believe there was also a song or two from the Main Ingredient album that might have made it onto the episode names, but it kind of gives you a sense of what might be going on in the episode. I want to say the basement might have been one. I should have had some of this stuff pulled up on the laptop to kind of run through that. But anyway, it gets started next Friday. You know, I'm sure most people will be through it by Saturday or late Sunday, maybe. You know, no sports on right now, no basketball, no more NHL and all that stuff. I mean, people got to spend their time doing something. Also, Aquaman. DC kind of stays in hot water. I guess they're getting ready to roll out the new trailer for Aquaman. And the one interesting thing that I saw was just the brother that was he was involved with the Get Down. His name is, give me just a second. He's playing Black Manta, but he's one of the villains in Aquaman. Oh. Yahya Abdul Mateen II is Black Manta. And so it's going to be two villains, or, you know, a major villain and then Black Manta. But Yahya Abdul Mateen II was just, he was a guy in the Get Down, which I don't know where you were with that. I know I talked about it last year. It was just a series. Nas was heavily involved in it and wrote a lot of the lyrics and everything for the songs in it. But the series just kind of lost its way. It tried to do a whole bunch of different things, and actually after season 2, they ended up pulling the plug pretty quickly on it. Once season 2 was dropped, I think 2 or 3 weeks later, they announced that they were moving on from that project. But he stood out, even though his role was pretty limited. He was kind of like the son of the lady, the female who was one of the boss of Harlem or whatever on that. And he was like her main muscle. And once again, they kind of messed his character up because he was into dancing, but then he was also a thug. And they just seemed to make him way too artsy fartsy for, you know, to be somebody's muscle and to be a hustler and whatnot. But like I said, that was part of what was confusing about the Get Down. But the couple of scenes that he had, you just felt like he was a dude that had a lot of appeal to him, and it's just pretty dope that he's moved on to a project like Aquaman. Like I said, I guess they're getting ready to roll out a new trailer, but it's coming at the San Diego Comic-Con, and I just think that up online they just showed like a new logo for Aquaman. And if you know all the problems with DC, you know, and then I still haven't even watched Justice League because of how horrible I heard it was. But a lot of people were upbeat on Aquaman from the first trailer and just the character in itself, which might have came out of Justice League kind of on a down note because everything with that movie was just seemed to be toxic. So, but check out this Yahya Abdul Mateen II. Check out collider.com and read the article if you don't know who I'm talking about, the guy. But I'm very interested in that. That's kind of all the entertainment. I'm going to keep it pretty short on my sports takes. Where was I with sports? You know, obviously the NBA is heating up right now with where LeBron James could be going. I was talking earlier, I called into the, what's Kelly and Rashad's podcast called? Damn, I need to write this stuff down. I know Momentum Shift is the network. I cannot think of what they call their show though. But it's Kelly and Rashad on Friday night, 7 to like 9 o'clock. But they mentioned, that was the first that I heard of it, that LeBron was actually planning a part 2 of his, notorious decision, that he might be announcing it in the same manner. I think that would be pretty horrible. But this is a guy that chose to wear this cast out last Friday, after being swept by the Golden State Warriors. So, his judgment isn't always the best in matters like that. So we'll see what happens, but I don't know, man. Like I said, I keep saying I think when the dust settles, although what I also talked about with them is the fact that Kawhi Leonard, it seems like he wants out of San Antonio. And this is just like unprecedented because, it's always been such a family situation there, such a family vibe, and team players and team-oriented players and all of that. But Kawhi, is a guy who we just don't hear much from in general. He's not an outspoken guy. He's not a big speaker. And, he's let them know that he doesn't want to be back. And now, depending on what show you listen to, he really did not respond well to Popovich. The way he said the quote was a militaristic, running of the team. He didn't agree with that, and he didn't want to be a part of it anymore. So I didn't know Popovich. I knew it had to be some expectations there as far as getting in line, falling in line, and, accountability and all of those types of things. But I thought Popovich had some humor and, some flavor about him and a certain edge, and hipness to him, even though he is nearing 70. I thought he was a guy that related to players pretty well. And, I'm dumbfounded to learn that this is the issue. But then I think we need to factor in, Pop had real life situations going on this year with his wife abruptly passing away, towards the end of the season. And he just might not have been too empathetic with anything that was going on with a multi-million dollar per season athlete who just had a quad injury, and we wouldn't expect to have the issues that he had once he was cleared to play. But like I said, I don't feel like we've been getting all of this situation. Again, same thing with Kaepernick in a much different issue. But Leonard is just not going to be the guy that's going to get out front and say anything and do interviews and let us know what's going on and what happened. We could learn if he gets to a new team and they do something, or they have a marquee game on a Saturday or Sunday, maybe they would do some type of vignette or sit down with him and he explains why he left and why it was a great decision for him individually and all of that. But it's really a sad day to me to think that somebody like a Kawhi is, that sensitive and not disloyal, but I don't know, man. It's just jacked up. But he wants to go back to Los Angeles, and is reportedly considering, or demanding a deal to be made with the Lakers. But there's 7 teams out there, one being the Cavaliers, the Spurs being one, the Clippers, the Kings. But it's just sad, man. I really wouldn't have believed that it could get to this. But like I said, maybe Popovich was just in his feelings because of what was going on at home, which, really wasn't publicized ahead of his wife passing away. But man, I'm dumbfounded on that one. But it opens up the LeBron discussion, because LeBron could simply be eyeing wherever he's going to go and checking out if he is going to be a Laker. Then that makes LA look even more enticing for LeBron to get a deal done there. It was another player that was mentioned as possibly even being a third elite player or a big name player that could go there. Oh, Paul George is still out there. So, PG, Kawhi, and LeBron, all as Lakers, would be a phenomenal turnaround. But I don't know. I had heard some things. Steven Jackson had been on First Things First and made it sound like this was a situation that could be mended. The fences could be mended. And he even went on to say that Pop had a better relationship with Kawhi than what we all knew. That was 2 or 3 days ago. And then we turn around and now the situation is to where it reportedly is. And it's just like, this could be a major, this could have significant ramifications in terms of, the top teams, in the West. So that's one to watch. I think that was about it. Man, I'm getting ready to check and see if this Nas album popped up for download, which I doubt it did. Let me see here. New music, new J-Rock, Future, the Superfly soundtrack, The Killers, Buddy Guy, Chromeo. Yeah, man, I just don't know. I was pretty sure that the Nas project was coming out today, and I think they dropped the ball. So we won't cry over spilled milk. I thought it was one other thing I was gonna mention. Again, I had the timestamps in the description of the show to check out Fred Hawthorne, Barbershop Conversations, and Jamel Herring, who talks about his next fight date and his debut with Top Rank. And then, his experiences in working next to Bud Crawford, and then being an Olympic teammate of Errol Spence Jr. and Claressa Shields. So I'm going to stop right here. And it's late, so I might just edit this up tomorrow and post it. Somebody just save it right now. I might come on after I get some sleep. Might come back and say a word or two. But if not, like I said, we'll get into these interviews. And like I said, look forward. Check out the YouTube channel and subscribe to the Pay Me No Mind YouTube channel. I'm hoping to record, a couple of videos next week and have some content up there. Or, check me out. Like I said, I'm at womenofboxing.com, roundbyroundboxing.com, or RL Woodson or Wood, or Pay Me No Mind on Women of Boxing. And then also the home goingfor2.com. I do the boxing page over there. So I got a ton of articles. I mean, not a ton, but a decent amount for somebody else that does something else besides podcast and write. But check me out on all of those platforms, and check me out on Twitter at @E_pluribus PLURIBUS_Wood. That's WOD. E pluribus Wood. Let's talk about some boxing, music, movies, TV series, whatever. We'll take this break. I'll holler at you on the other side.
3 shows, 1 podcast.
Podcast. The Talk Loud Radio podcast combines sports, nerds, and pop culture with the Pay Me No Mind Show. Just down-to-earth sports and entertainment. The Clash of the Nerds Let's Podcast Show. The latest movies and video games with a dash of comedy. And the Armchair Fantasy Show. 8. Sleep Fantasy Sports. Find Talk Loud Radio on all the major podcast services like iTunes and Stitcher at talkloudradio.com and streaming on the Going for Two app for iOS and Android. Talk Loud Radio, where sports, nerds, and pop culture collide.
And I'm back. It's the next day, actually, man. I had a couple other things I did want to get to on this episode. I'll jump into them real quick. One being the NBA draft, which comes on this Thursday night. What's that, June 21st? It's coming out of Brooklyn, I believe, is where it will be held. And take a quick look at some of the consensus picks. And then also, earlier in the show, I was talking about the Nas project, Nasir. It's out now. It is officially out. So, I'm going to download or buy the, the fully mastered version and all of that. And I took a moment and checked it out before coming down here to restart the podcast. And I listened to all of the snippets on Google Play and whatnot. And I'm going to be honest with you, really didn't sit much better with me. Again, I'm going to go into more of a fuller review next week. Let me sit with the lyrics for a week, check it out. And, but I don't know, man. As slick and smooth as Nas was back in the day and as original, and different as his lyrical content was and whatnot, it seems like the last project or so, it just seems like it's forced now. It just doesn't seem natural. And on here, from most of the songs that, just from the snippets, I still get that it's something not quite synced up. But I will say two things. Maybe Rick Ross should have executive produced the album. Maybe that would have come with something more of what I was looking for, or more of what I would like as far as Rick Ross's ear for tracks and whatnot. Maybe that would have done it for me. What does it say about Nas that somebody else has to kind of like lead you in the right direction and help you put an album together? Now what I still say this, and I haven't heard all of Daytona, but for me, Kanye's his best body of work, that he totally crafted and oversaw was Common's album, B, I believe is the one that he did. That was phenomenal. And but that was before we got a lot of the changes that we've seen occur in that man's life in the last 5 to 7 years and whatnot. But I don't know, man. This album just is something about it that's just not there for me. Also, second thought I was gonna have or share. I probably would be better if you're listening to the last the DJ Premier remix of Cole's 1985 song that I told you about last week, which there might be a video for that this week that they actually put together, Cole and Primo. But if you would have given, if you check out Premier's last work with Prime Volume 2 and taking a look at Prime Volume 1, now I know he wouldn't have the body of music that Ant-Man, Wonder, and Andre Young from out in California, who provided all of the source music for Prime Volume 1 or Prime 1, I know he wouldn't quite have that those resources to pull from to put these albums together. But, the J. Cole remix was totally, Premier doing his old school production thing. But I almost feel like it would have been a better fit if he just got with a Premier, maybe even a Pete Rock. Go back to the original formula that made him great. Do the guys who made Illmatic that contributed to Illmatic, would each one of them have, a type beat that they've been holding back on, and that he could go get 6 or 7, maybe 10 tracks and put together an album. But this one right here, like I said, I'm glad that some people think it's great and it's being praised the way that it is. And I see a lot of GOAT posts online and in different forums. It was several people on the Google Play app that said it was a classic before the first verse. And, it's glad to see that Nas is getting all that credit. But, again, a couple of the songs on there kind of stood out to me, but I don't know. We'll see. I still think I'd like to hear Nas over Harry Fraud, I believe is a producer I like. Maybe Marco Polo. I think he had some joints on the last Fonte record that I liked. Static Selector always does his thing. I think I would have really rather preferred to hear an album of Nas's put together by some of those guys. But maybe even Alchemist, at times he's brilliant. So anyway, that's out there. Enjoy it, take it in, or, not. Let's look at this draft real quick and then let me wrap this up. Looking at the consensus list right now they have on NBA.com, I just wanted to talk through a couple of these. Like I said, again, that goes down Thursday night. So just like picks, all of the lottery picks, right now DeAndre Ayton of Arizona, 7'1" center, he's trending as number 1. And I didn't get to see a lot of him with him being out there, on the West Coast. And then at the end of the season having, his head coach, Sean Miller, having all kind of problems with the FBI popping up on that wiretap and whatnot. So I didn't get to see a whole lot of him. But he's an agile big man. Some people foresee him developing an outside game. And it's just overall, they believe that he can contribute day one. That's what they have listed on here. That's probably the case, anytime, despite the fact that the league is going small and, the guard position is dominating, the outcome of games when you have Lillard, Curry, Russ to a degree, when you have the Harden moving over to the point guard, when you have all of this happening from the point, it's easy to go out here and find you a guard or want to find a guard like that, but it's not like it's a bunch of those guys around. So when you can get a young big man and work with him and he can contribute, whether it's just in the pick and roll game, rim runs, protecting the rim, that's still an interesting way to go. And Phoenix, I haven't seen a lot of them. I mean, we know Booker is out there as a shooting guard, but I think they're just in a position where they can't pass this guy up because he could be a force to reckon with in a couple of years. No disagreement there. Number 2, the Sacramento Kings, they're looking at Luka Doncic, 6'8", shooting guard, small forward. He's coming in. The consensus for him is the second pick, but I've heard reading on here earlier, they said he's moved down for different reasons, moved down maybe as low as number 6. For me, in the footage that I've seen of him, he looks a little slow. And I'm not trying to be stereotypical, in saying that, but he looks a little. He looks at like he moves at a different speed for a for an NBA shooting guard. He kind of looks more like maybe he moves at the speed of a Carmelo, maybe a little slower than Carmelo in terms of quickness. So I'm just not sure how. It seems like some of the talk was of him running the team or running the offense, being heavily involved in directing the offense and the playmaking. And I don't know. He just got a different body type. I think he's a little thicker guy, a little of a thicker guy. So I'm wondering how that would blend in, playing against NBA guys, especially the starter group. But the height does help out. So, and I think he can shoot it pretty well. At least his form wasn't too bad. But just his quickness looked like it could be an issue to me. But, maybe there's the right system for him to be in. Maybe the right type of coach could utilize him, and that's not a problem. But looking at him, just the eye test, he looked a little slow to me to be a shooting guard. Now, maybe, we play this positionless basketball in the NBA, and you can move him to the 3 or even the 4 in some lineups. And maybe his foot quickness that I'm looking at, maybe that's not so much of an issue. But Luka Doncic. Another thing with these Euro guys, man, is none of them never really average a whole bunch of points in the European League. Although I think this kid is like 19 years old or something, maybe 20. It'll just be interesting to see what he can actually come over. Oh, but like I said, I thought I saw the highest that he averaged was maybe 15 to 17 points, if even that high. So it's just always interesting how that translates, how that is perceived by the scouts that bring these guys over. When you have some college kids in the NCAA that are averaging 19 or 20 points a game, or mid 20s. How do you look at somebody from the Euro Leagues averaging 8 points a game and think that highly of them? But that's that. Number 3, Marvin Bagley III, looking at being drafted by the Atlanta Hawks. The kid is 6'11" and ACC Player of the Year. He's being praised as having the package to be a small ball center or power forward, who can stretch the floor and whatnot. I think he could be the steal of the draft, personally. That's who I would be looking at if my Pistons had a pick with new coach Dwayne Casey taking over the helm next year. The interesting thing about Bagley is that he signed a deal with Puma for Puma to relaunch their basketball division, and he'll be at the forefront of that. So Puma is looking to draft, according to another article that was on, what was that on? ESPN.com, I believe. It was on ESPN.com, but he's getting like a $2 to $3 million 5-year deal. The interesting thing is that the last NBA athlete they had a deal with was Vince Carter, and it was a 10-year deal originally, but I think it only made it into like year 2, and he had some complaints about, I remember him, being critical of their sneakers, and, they ended up squashing that deal, and he moved on to Nike and went on to do, everything that he did. But looks like Bagley is could be there for the long haul. He seems to be that type of guy. The article out there said that he had a lot of strong ties to Nike throughout his high school career in AAU. Nike actually funded his team, is what the article said. And he, before he went to Duke, which was a Nike school or is a Nike school, it was just, he had strong ties to Nike. So it comes to a shock to some that he would jump out and sign a deal with Puma. But I like kids doing innovative things for themselves and their own brand. And it would be real, it'd be dope if he could do something successful coming from a different, not coming from Nike. Curry left Nike to go over to Under Armour. AI signed with Reebok. When Reebok was was less popular. So it's interesting. Harden has done things, and D Rose with Adidas and whatnot. So it's cool to get somebody that's taking a chance and going in a different direction. If you pay attention to the business side of the game, that's kind of an interesting development. But I think that's a good pick for Atlanta. Bagley the third, like I said, I foresee him being in the race for NBA Rookie of the Year. I think I need to see him put it on the ground a little bit more. But he looked like that deal to me. Number 4, Jaren Jackson Jr. from Michigan State. The consensus place for him is 4, going to the Memphis Grizzlies. That's a pretty good place for him, but thinking back to the NCAA tournament, man, I just don't recall him being a big factor in the last couple of games. I don't remember hearing his name at all against Syracuse. And I thought when I looked a couple weeks ago just to check it out was that he only had a handful of points in that game. But I just don't remember his name. I don't even remember him really being on the court that game. He could have been in foul trouble. That happens in college where they don't have the same type of officiating, and a star player could very easily be, could lose a lot of time in a big time game or something because they're just called differently. But I just don't remember him having that impact, in a big moment, which I guess we can't judge the guy on one game. But interesting to find him up there. But he is 6'11". Suppose he's being touted as a outstanding defender who boasts an emerging offensive game. Emerging being the operative word there. Let's move on. Number 5, Mohamed Bamba, Mo Bamba, is being projected to go to the Dallas Mavericks. Another 7-footer, a freshman, a good talented defender, second in the country in block shots per game last season, 4th in total blocks, and drawing comparisons to Rudy Gobert and Clint Capella. I didn't see Mo Bamba a whole lot this past year. Texas basketball down there with Shaka Smart is still kind of regaining its identity. And I didn't check the kid. I didn't get to see him too many times, but good pick for the Dallas Mavericks. Interesting that some of these, with him and Ayton, there's some of these guys that the state that they played college basketball in is looking like that's where they could end up professionally. Number 6, Michael Porter. He's all over the place. Anywhere from 6, 7, and 8. But the big thing with him is the back surgery issue. I guess he has some thigh spasms or lower back spasms or something they said the other day. And he had an MRI, which came back clean. I saw that. But he's 6'10". Only played the 3 games while at Mizzou. But he's looked at as a great shooter. Completely different body type than what I was expecting when he did get back on the court for Missouri. They said he was about 80% or something. I think he played in the last game of the conference tournament, and then a couple of games in the NCAA tournament was all he managed to get in this year. It didn't look like he had his timing together and just really wasn't ready for game speed. But, he tried to go out there. His brother was on the team, so he tried to do something. And, I didn't really see him being that impactful. And I hadn't seen him before, before he got injured. So I don't have much to go with on him. But for him to go to the Orlando Magic, 6'10", not a bad spot for him. But like I said, I think it all comes down to his health. And hopefully he's not a young man who, whose career is changed because of this back injury and the surgery and just his body failing him. Hopefully that's not the case for the young man. Number 7, Trae Young going to the Chicago Bulls, 6'2", just 1 year at Oklahoma. Led the nation in scoring, 27.4 per game, assists 8.7 per game, but will need to improve on his defense in the NBA. The Bulls, I guess, are giving up on Dunn. I think I saw that last week. Dunn not being a natural scorer in this era of the point guards that I mentioned earlier. Of the dynamic point guards who can fill it up. Young, you would hope that he could be that guy. I really didn't know that he was 6'2". Looking at him, he is very slight in his build. It's taking a risk, to think that he can do the 27.4, although he's shown that type of range, to shoot from 2 and 3 feet beyond even the NBA 3-point line. But I don't know, it looks like he's going to be, a liability defensively. It doesn't really look like he's a guy that can get in the lane and mix it up and score and take the pounding in there. It'll be interesting to see what kind of guard, he can really be. But the standout for him is the assist game. If he can run your team and if he can keep the assists per game up there, around 9 or 10, and if he can shoot higher percentage from the field, it's not like in the right offense where the ball is moving and he's not trying to take people off the bounce to get his shots off. If they are shots coming out of the ball being swung around, inside and out, 3-point looks, I think it's a future for the kid, because he definitely can shoot it. So, maybe he's not if he's not a mid-20 type scorer at the next level, maybe he's a high teen scorer. But if he can run those assists, keep those assists up and limit the turnovers, he could be a difference-making player. But like I said, it does look like defensively that's just not going to be his calling card. Can he improve there? Who knows? To me, he looked a little... I think he played for his dad throughout high school and whatnot, but it just looked like he'd been a guy, whether it was AAU or high school basketball. It looked like he knows how to play the game, and he's that coach's son. But he's been allowed to take plays off quite a bit. Probably never, any threat of coming off of the floor or being told what to do, because his scoring has probably, outshined everything to this point. So it's just a matter with him of who can change his attitude towards, being a difference maker or applying himself on both ends of the basketball court would come into question for me. But Trae Young, I also saw some thoughts out there of him going in the number 8 spot to the Cleveland Cavaliers. But on here, Wendell Carter out of Duke, 6'10", another freshman. He's projected as the guy that could be the Cleveland Cavaliers, man. That's a little disappointing. They have him on here as a do-it-all big man who draws comparisons to Al Horford. Noted as having huge hands that allow him to catch and score in the paint, while also having the physicality to finish through contact. He didn't jump off the screen for me too much this year. Obviously because Bagley was there taking up so much of the shine. And then Grayson and some of the other shooters on the team, Trent Jr. It's like we didn't get to see Carter's game. But, he has that 6'10" frame on him. Al Horford, if that's a legit comp, he could just be a steady guy. Al Horford's been a very steady guy, never won the big one, never been enough to, get the Hawks when he was in Atlanta. And they had those 3 or 4 good years in that a derivative of that Spurs system. But we'll see what Carter does. I'm just saying, if you're LeBron James and you're looking at this, that's probably not the name that thinks, I'm getting some help here if I decide to stay in Cleveland. It's probably not the case with Wendell Carter. Could he be better than a Tristan Thompson, though? Possibly, but like I said, I have to see him more facing the basket and seeing what he can do with the spacing of the NBA game. We kind of have to look at that. Could he be an efficient scorer, just catching and shooting? catch and shooting with, running alongside LeBron if he was to stay. I don't know. Like I said, that name and his game doesn't really scream stay if I'm LeBron. Number 9, Michael Bridges out of Villanova, 2-time NCAA champion. Lots of experience in the postseason you're getting with Bridges, who's at 6'7". He's a junior, projected to go to the New York Knicks. I know that makes rapper Sky Zoo happy. That's been his guy pretty much. I've seen him mentioning on social media. So that'd be interesting. I just wonder if Bridges, he's an all Big East first team selection. Considered one of the best two-way prospects. Drawing comparisons to Kawhi Leonard is what they have on NBA.com. I don't know if I go that far. He's got a certain body type on him that kind of has the big guy, but has the slim legs, from the knee down, maybe even thighs. He's just kind of light down in his legs. And that just would lead me to believe he might not be too willing to accept, defensive duties, from the on the 3 and the 4. And I just don't know if he's that dynamic. He has that length on him, but I don't know if he has that quickness on him, to guard some of the better twos and maybe even slide over to guard some of the, the point guards. But I don't know if he's one of those guys that you see in college that can play like four positions defensively because of his size. But then he gets to the NBA just like a Jordan Bell. I mean, you look at Bell on the court now versus what he was at Oregon. I mean, he looked like a specimen at Oregon. But now I see him a couple weeks ago playing for the Golden State Warriors, and he looks slim as hell. He looks like a point guard or a 2 out there running around. And Bridges is that guy. Like I said, I don't know if he has that frame to really put on too much size and really get in there and bang with inside where you might need him to guard some people. I mean, this is a guy that will have to probably guard a LeBron if he stays in the Eastern Conference. And like I said, he just doesn't have that big lower body where he can get in there and root a guy out, take that contact, and stand up really strong. But the thing with him, I also need to see what his handles are like, because the role that if he's playing shooting guard or small forward, he's going to have to handle the ball a little bit. Can he set up other players and get 2 or 3 or 4 assists per game? I don't know if we saw all of that of him at Philadelphia, but he's a kid, again, I like my guys that stay 2 and 3 years at college. He did that. So it's good to see him being rewarded with, a potential look in the top 10. Going to the Knicks though, it is what it is, with going to that franchise right now, unless they're able to pull down 1 or 2 of these, elite free agents that are all looking like they could be looking to go to the West and not to the East. Number 10, Colin Sexton out of Alabama, projected to go to the Sixers. That'd be really interesting because he's a point guard, and obviously last year they took Fultz with the number 1 pick. So now to go back to guard, I don't know. Sexton is 6'2", in the matchup in the postseason in March Madness, being matched up against Trae Young. He lost. He didn't win the game. Oklahoma moved on. He was a guy that came on last year, at the end, towards the end of the season. Conference tournaments was when I really started seeing him. And he was second in the SEC in scoring at 19.2 per game. They're saying that he has a toughness and a competitive streak that's considered or drawing comparisons to a Russell Westbrook. I didn't really see that type of I didn't see, no parallels there athletically. But he's an interesting pick. That's crazy that Bama, football powerhouse, has a guy who could be considered as a lottery pick in the NBA. So, but shout for him to, working on his game and just, and being a freshman and rising to this level to be considered, lottery worthy in just 1 year. Number 11 is Miles Bridges, projected to go to the Charlotte Hornets. 6'7", sophomore, first team All Big Ten selection, averaged 17-7 for the Spartans, and was a finalist for the Wooden Award. He looks like a streaky shooter. Now, when I was just mentioning the thinness of and Bridges kind of being light in the behind and down in his base, Bridges, you don't have that problem with him at 6'7". Very thick guy. Looks like he could guard 3 through or 2 through the 4 maybe. Especially if opposing teams are playing that small ball. Looks like he could get it done. It just, to me, it comes down to him. How physical does his game translate to the NBA when he's playing against men? And is his jumper more consistent? Good pick for the Hornets, though. I think I like that fit right there. That's one of the best fits I've seen on here. Small forward, power forward. Yeah, I like Miles going there. Just a few more, and we'll get out of here. Number 12, the first Kentucky Wildcat pops up. Going to the Clippers, possibly. That's where he's shown up most commonly in the, in the mock drafts. Knox is 6'9", small forward, power forward is the position. Having listed on here is show potential as a perimeter threat. All SEC freshman team, starting 37 games. He was up and down this year. The Kentucky team came along kind of at the end of the year last year, as they typically do, being that it's a new starting 5 every season with Calipari. I think he's a guy that we could see. It could take a couple of years for him to play a prominent role in any team. But, going to the Clippers and playing out west, the Clippers are kind of reloading after having the loaded teams, before Paul and Griffin got out of there. 6'9", good height on him and everything. But like I said, I think he's a guy who kind of has to still establish what his game is. I hate to see another guy that's 6'9" come in just shooting up 3-pointers instead of getting in, working on or being effective from mid-range and then driving to the hoop and being athletic and everything. I'd hate to see another guy just come in and be just accept becoming one-dimensional and scoring from long range or attempting to. The Clippers get this 12th and 13th pick. I think the 12th one was one that came from our Pistons, who have no pick. I keep mentioning that. But at 13, the Clippers are looked at taking Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, 6'6", another freshman out of Kentucky. This kid, he didn't jump off the screen to me a lot, but he was, he played a instrumental role in getting them together at the end of the season, going through the conference tournament and getting into March Madness. So he had to have matured as a player and running a team and everything. But being a starting guard, being a taller guard, a 19 or 20-year-old kid, I find it hard to believe that he'll be effective, right away. Number 14, Robert Williams, projected to go to the Denver Nuggets, 6'9", a sophomore, power forward and center. It's my dog up there, probably barking at my wife, watering the grass. I don't know, man. Tell me the last time a Texas A&M guy really came in and really was what he was in college. That just hasn't been a school that's really been, that's really known for turning out NBA talent. And I've seen a couple of decent teams there over the last 4 or 5 years, and the best guys on those teams have just rarely really came in and stuck as NBA talent or NBA prospects. 6'9" and power forward center, definitely undersized. And then the knock on him is questions remain about consistency of effort. And that's kind of what we've seen with those Texas A&M basketball teams, is they go on these swoons at the end of the year, and, you know, coming from being a top 10 ranked team during the season, they didn't get into conference play in March Madness, and they don't pan out in terms of going on a deep run in the big tournament. So seems like the deck is pretty stacked against the guy, but, you know, going to the Denver Nuggets, it's one of those teams that's still forming, still coming along, so maybe it's a role for him out there. I believe that's all of the lotto right there. The one interesting thing is where does somebody like Grayson Allen go? I think 5 Duke players are projected to go in the first round, which would be, you know, a big deal. But, you know, where is Grayson Allen projected to go? There was another player out there that just came to mind a few minutes ago. I'm going to forget it. There was one other player that name was missing from everything that I was seeing, and I wanted to mention it real quick. Damn. Oh, well. Well, look. Again, I want to send a shout out and thank my guests for joining me this week, Fred Hawthorne of Barbershop Conversations, and then also Jamel Herring, now fighting at lightweight. He brought up Tank Davis, not me. But no, shout out to Jamel. Appreciate him for coming on. And then that's it, man. I'm going to get on out of here, get this posted. Again, reach out to me if you want to get a word or enjoy the fights tonight. Errol Spence Jr. going down, you know, in about 12 hours on Showtime. Another interesting fight to look, and I tried to get in touch with Adrian Granados this week, but he must have been busy. I think that fight came together a little late, but that's a very interesting look for him to have Javier Fortuna across the ring from him. Is a guy that just his stature, not his stature, but his position in the game, you know, Fortuna, a former world champion and whatnot, but that's not somebody coming in that is a clear A-side to Adrian, and we know Adrian has had a couple of tough decisions since he got that win over Amir Imam. I want to say that's Imam's first name, but since he got that shocking stoppage of Imam, you know, he's faced a couple of guys who were just considered, you know, a level above him, especially going and fighting AB in his hometown, which that finished in a split decision in AB's favor. I thought that Granados thought he did a little better than Sean Porter than what he really may have done in the ring. I thought it was one other guy he faced in there in that time and got a tough decision. But anyway, it's good to see him, you know, after getting 2 good paydays, 2 big high profile fights last year. It's good to see him get on this card and that his hard work is paying off. This is a winnable fight for him, and I hope he takes advantage of it. His pressure against Fortuna style, not having the height advantage that Robert Easter Jr. had against Fortuna, that should be a pretty good scrap to watch. And I thought there was one other fight on that card, which I closed it already. But we'll have to see what Mr. Ocampo, what kind of, can he provide us with any surprises tonight? So check that out. No Tiger, you know, making a run in the U.S. Open. I believe he's out of it. DJ looking pretty good so far. That's probably who I would have put my money on to win it all. And hey, until next week, you know, all of the fathers out there, enjoy your Father's Day tomorrow. And as usual, you don't have to be great to start, but you have to start to be great. Peace.
This is talkloudradio.com.
welcoming back to the podcast one of my favorite dudes on YouTube and Instagram and just in general. He's leaving a lot of major keys out there for all of us that need a little word every once in a while. My man Fred Hawthorne, what's going on, boss?
Man, what up, King? What up? I've been down in Texas, man, waiting on Errol Spence to knock this dude out tomorrow in under 6 rounds, man. What's up?
Hey, everybody knows Fred. I mean, he's one of the YouTube guys I'm envious of. I've been a little down on my game lately, but I'm getting ready to get started back up with some of my videos and everything. But for everybody that's listening, check out Fred at Barbershop Conversations on YouTube. Where else can they get you at, man? Instagram is Silent Heroes, right?
Instagram at Silent Heroes, man. Okay. And yeah, we follow each other, we support each other, man, and we just want to make our communities just a little bit bigger and a lot of bit better. You know what I mean? So follow us, support us, and we're gonna do a great job and carrying on the legacy of boxing, man. So follow all of us, man. I'm gonna put this on my channel too. So I'm gonna pull it. Put it on my channel as well.
I just need about 8% of your followers on YouTube to
You go get them. You go get them for sure.
Yeah, I just gotta get. I gotta get back focused and get back consistent, because consistency. Like you said,
that's always been for me.
Right,
you know that.
Right, like you said.
Ain't nothing special about my short ass.
Like you
said, I'm short, black, and was a bastard. So if I can do this shit, anybody can do this shit. You know what I mean? So shit.
Hey, and like the one good word that you had on there a month and a half or so ago was, how you do one thing is how you do everything. So, it's about that consistency.
Hey, the truth is so offensive.
Yes. Before we jump into the boxing, man, I know you're traveling this week, but have you had a chance to spend any time and check out this Nasir project? I know you said you liked some of my...
No, dog. Someone screenshotted me a verse. And I fucking hit the roof, but I said, I cannot disrespect Nas and listen to one song. I can't do it. I got to listen to the full body of work. So I have resisted. I'm going to download it right before I get on the plane. I got 2 hours and 30 minutes to listen to 7 songs, and I'll probably be able to listen to it twice. I fucking can't wait. I can't wait, yo. I can't. Someone screenshotted me that what he said about slavery and JFK. I said, oh my God. I said, I gotta listen to this album, but I'm not gonna listen to one song. I can't do hip hop like that. I can't be disrespectful like that. I gotta listen to the full body, and then I'll start breaking it down song by song, but I'm excited. So Sunday morning, I'll be done listening to it when I land in LA.
Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna talk about it on the intro to this podcast. But like you said, I have to reserve my opinion though, because there are a couple of different places for you to stream it, but I think it's kind of dangerous to do that, because I don't think the sound quality is together on all of the different streams. One being the Mass Appeal YouTube channel, which showed the feed to the listening party in Queensbridge with Ye was there, Kim, a bunch of hip hop luminaries showed up, but I didn't understand the format that they got on the YouTube channel. I just didn't really understand what the hell I was listening to, and I think it was a disservice to the rollout of this record, being who Nas is, and being that he's been gone for 6 or 7 years. So I felt like, but Nas has, man, Nas has never really cared about a perfect album or a perfect rollout. That's just never really been his thing. So I'm gonna go back, like you said. I think it can be purchased after midnight tonight, and then I'm gonna buy it and rock with it. But since you haven't heard that, man, just before we do get into the boxing, is there any other hip hop albums that you've been dwelling with lately?
Yes. And I've only been on one album the past 3.5, 4 months. That's Nipsey motherfucking Hussle, Victory Lap. God, it speaks to me on so many different levels, man, because I've gone from not the streets in terms of selling drugs and all that, but just being impoverished. You know what I mean? And Nipsey Hussle's mindset is very clear from where it has been and to where it's at now and where it's going. and I aspire to invest in my community, and I also believe in group economics like he does. You know what I mean? In terms of us pulling our money together. Like, I'm not sure if you've seen Jay Morrison recently. He's done a great job at creating a Tulsa real estate firm, and I'm just a firm believer in group economics, man, and redeveloping and developing our own communities, man. And Nipsey Hussle, oh man, Blue Laces too. Oh man, man, there's no superlatives I can put on it that would do it any justice. You know what I mean? But I've been on that album for like 4 months. You know what I mean? And always go back to Thug Motivation 101 and 444 album. You know, when Jay-Z said, Jay-Z's like a pastor to me. That's the reason why I have Tidal and not another streaming services, because I love Jay-Z that much. And when he says a man that can't take care of his family can't be rich, that hits me on so many different levels, man, because as a man, we think that it's just financial and our, more importantly, financial, and then maybe, depending on how we feel that day, our presence. But it's so many different layers to having a family, whether it be spiritual, whether it be financial, whether it be emotional, you know what I mean? Metaphysical, there's so many different layers to being present and enriching your family, you know what I mean? So that album and To Nipsey Hussle has been my 2 albums since June 30th of last year.
Now, I'm going to have to go back because you're about the 4th person that's told me about Nipsey, and I'm going to be, I'm keeping it in a buck. I haven't checked into it. That's really not one of my main guys that I would go to, but I will say that I think I can relate to him on some of the topics that you just mentioned, or themes. And I heard some interviews with him talking about the project that really, caught my ear. So I'm gonna check it out. I think last year I broke down and listened to the one brother from Sci-Hi the Prince.
Yeah, he's dope. From Detroit, right?
He's actually from Atlanta, I believe, but I thought he was from Chicago.
Oh, Chicago. Okay. Maybe I stand corrected. Okay.
But okay. I thought he was from Chicago because he was messing with Kanye a lot. But he's actually from Atlanta, I believe. But I broke down. Okay. I broke down and really took his album to the lab because so many people were talking about him in the same way that I'm hearing about Victory Lap. And while I wouldn't buy it because it wasn't necessarily my style, I really appreciate what he did in his space in hip hop. And so I think I can find the same thing with with Nipsey.
Okay. I'm on it. I people have said it to me, but I've been such in tunnel vision between Jay-Z. Like, I haven't even given J. Cole a chance. And I bought J. Cole tickets the very first minute they went on sale. You know what I mean? So, but I just haven't given J. Cole a chance. I haven't given no one. I haven't given Pusha T a chance. Like, I just haven't. You know what I mean? I just been stuck on the albums. But because I'm from New York and I don't care, I'm from Harlem, but now I'm from Queens. I don't, I got to pay homage to my New York dudes. So I'm definitely excited to listen to that joint when I hop on the plane Sunday morning.
Well, we'll touch base on that. And I know you where it's popping this weekend for boxing, being in somewhat of an unusual spot, being down in Dallas. But before we jump into this weekend's fight, let's step back for a second. I'd like to get your opinion on what the Charlo victory over Austin Trout and the Crawford winning his first title at 147. I'd like to get your thoughts on how that affects your views on the landscapes in their respective divisions.
Okay, I'll Crawford first. Crawford did what I expected him to do. I thought it would be more of a fill out as I did in my prediction, but he leveled up and didn't make it a prediction round. He just set the tone for what was expected, a stoppage. Terence Crawford is a dog. Terence Crawford is your worst nightmare. Terence Crawford is a boxer. Terence Crawford is a punisher. Terence Crawford is a menace. Terence Crawford is a motherfucking punisher. There's no fucking competitive adjective that you can't use to describe Terence Crawford. And that's one of his greatest attributes. He has a high IQ. He can go from orthodox to softball. I mean, he is it. He can be beaten, but I'm talking about in terms of the intangible package, he has that, and what he did for 47 was just like, damn, why did you sign with Top Rank? You know what I mean? Like that's the question to be had. Like what are they doing for you to accelerate your ascension? You know, and to be at the top of 147 is pretty prestigious, because I don't care what nobody say. Keith Thurman 3 months ago had 2 belts. Sean Porter lost to Keith Thurman by 1 round. Danny Garcia is an A-level fighter. So, I mean, if you can run the gamut out of those 5 fighters, Errol Spence and Terence Crawford, the other 2, whoever cleans out that gamut, obviously we have favorites. Vegas has favorites, but you still got to go in there and fight. And you don't know what can happen on that day. Whoever comes out of there, whew, God bless them. Because that's going to be the toughest 2 years they've ever experienced. Once you win one fight, shit, I got to go fight Crawford. Shit, I got to go fight Spence. Shit, I got to go with Sean Porter for 12 rounds. Fuck, I got to be hit by Danny Garcia's left hook. Oh, you know what I mean? So whoever comes out of that, and I know people have already ordained right now the prohibit favorites are Crawford and or Spence. I respect all of that. But you still got to fight Danny Garcia. You know, Danny Garcia ain't done nothing but one his whole career. People call it luck, but if you do it more than once, it's not luck. You know, that's just, I mean, Sean Porter ain't do nothing. Sean Porter is the greatest competitor in boxing, I believe. You know, like,
good point.
Like,
good point.
In terms of applying pressure and I mean, if you are not at least an A- fighter, there's no way in hell you can step in the ring with the Sean Porter. You understand what I'm saying? If you are not willing to go through hell, there's no way in hell you can get into a fight with Errol Spence. If you're not willing to be an intellectual bully, there's no way in hell you can get in the ring with the Keith Thurman. If you're not willing to force the bully to take a step back, there's no way in hell you can get in the ring with Terence Crawford. So it's just fucking loaded, man. And I'm overwhelmed. I'm excited. I'm forever thankful of the opportunity to be some people's liaison to boxing, man. And I'm forever humbled. And like you, man, we vanguards of the sport, man. And it's fun, man. Man, what could we want best do on a Saturday? I mean, Megan Good, Holly Berry is great, but boxing is greater. You know what I mean? So, man, what can we want, man?
Right.
Yeah, man.
Right. Last question before and I like how you gave that time frame out there, because that was my next question. And I think about 24 to 26 months is probably what we'll need to see that play out in our reality. But before getting into this weekend, last question on other topics. And I know you probably didn't give a damn. I'm not so sure I did either. But it was funny this week how the narrative between Triple G and Canelo, how the narrative on like boxing Twitter, if you will, and some of the media on, you know, that cover it. It was like we were taking sides between the two just because you said something in one of the other favor. And for me, it really wasn't about percentages for because I don't talk about purses and earnings and all that. I don't do that on my podcast. I feel like the business should just be taken care of, and I sit back and I respect that. But I'm never gonna get on here and talk about a fighter and lead with his money. But what I did like was, I thought it was a lot of hubris from the Golden Boy camp to come out and say at the outset that you're going to take this 65-35 because that was the deal that we had in place. How in the hell could Triple G and Loeffler accept that? So I wasn't rooting for Triple G to get what he wanted, but as a business major, I did want to see some good faith negotiation happen. And I felt like I kind of enjoyed how Loeffler played that situation out. But I wasn't rooting for Triple G in terms of what his cut was going to be.
Okay. I, you know, basically, you want me to tell the truth or you want me to be PG? Obviously, you want me to tell the truth.
Yes, sir.
It was, if they didn't fight each other, it was like, oh, shit, it was a fear of fighting a nigga. That's what the fuck this shit was. And And I need to do a video on this. I'm glad you reminded me. I need to fucking do a video. They said, Canelo said, oh, shit, I got to fight Jacobs. And Triple G said, oh, shit, I got to fight Charlo. Hey, Triple G, que onda, como estás? And Triple G said, bien, ¿y tú? Gracias, de nada, sign the motherfucking contract. Okay. You know what I mean? That's exactly what the shit was, yo. That's exactly what the shit was, man. And that's it. And now we're going to get another fight, and Canelo has to fucking win this fight. Like, I mean, like, shit. Whenever Canelo loses, he wins. Whenever Canelo wins, he's a hero. That's just the narrative. That's just Canelo's narrative, man. He's never lost a fight. Losing to Floyd Mayweather is not a loss.
No.
Let's be clear.
Not at all.
It does nothing to your career. Maidana retired. Robert Guerrero had his life changed. His dad told me that fight changed his family's life forever. You know, Andre Berto basically retired.
Launched the clothing line.
You know, like, it's just, you know, and Canelo learned a lot from that. You know, he was a student of the game. He learned how to slip, and he learned how to use his, he became more flexible above the waist. You know, it's very apparent. You know what I mean? He understood. He got a lot better with his jab. You know what I mean? And his placement of the jab. You know, his left hook is getting better. And you know, that's all it was, a fear of fighting the nigga, man. That's all it was. And at the end of the day, they got what they wanted. They got what was going to happen anyway, man. Man, come on.
And that's
I did a video 2 weeks ago. It says Canelo's fighting Triple G and Jacobs is fighting that guy with the D. I forget the name, Devinchenko. So, you know, the biggest winner of all this shit is Devinchenko, Devin, whatever, because now we know who the fuck he is.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, that name rings a bell. Oh, he fights at 160. Oh, yeah, he's the IBF mandatory. I didn't know that shit in April. You know what I mean? Or March, or, you know what I mean? I knew who he was. I'm not going to say I didn't know who he was, but he wasn't on the radar.
Right. He couldn't get nobody's name on the contract.
No, yeah. I mean, we basically added like a half a zero to his name. You know what I mean? Every media outlet around, you know? So, you know, kudos to him. He's the biggest winner. Devinchenko is definitely the biggest winner out of all of this. Yeah. So now we know who he is.
Right. I felt like you said, in kind of from a different angle. I just felt like you said, those guys, the familiarity between one another, and knowing that knowing what I need to go back to the drawing board and adjust to win that fight. It's no way in hell I'm gonna go over here and face one of these two guys who I don't know what the outcome of that could be, and I don't want to deal with that athleticism and that rhythm and all the different things in facing one of those guys, and it might be for less money. So let's figure this out and make it happen.
Yeah, man. It was like a husband and wife, man. We got 3 kids, man. Can we talk about this tomorrow? I know we're angry. Can we just talk about this tomorrow? All right, maybe tomorrow we'll have cooler will prevail tomorrow. You know, good night, babe. Kiss you on the forehead. Good night.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's all this shit was, man.
Exactly.
You know.
So
I'm
asking you the question, but I'm just telling, you know, anybody that does press play on this that I didn't have a favorite in that money thing. I just wanted to sit back and watch the business negotiations play out because like you said, we got what we were always gonna get. I mean, no doubt.
Yeah, exactly. You know what I mean? Now Canelo's winning this fight, man. That's it. There's no way if Canelo doesn't get knocked down, he's winning this fucking fight. Triple G ain't blasting him out the fucking water, man. I mean, let's be clear. Those rounds will be nip and tuck. 8 of those 12 rounds will be nip and tuck, man. Canelo's winning this fight. I mean, that's just it. I mean, I should do my reaction video tomorrow. You know what I mean? But you know, that's it. That's it. Man. Canelo's not losing.
Definitely.
He's not losing.
Definitely.
If he doesn't get knocked down, he's not losing. That's all I'm saying.
Definitely. Hey, you're at Ground Zero this week. I've been checking out the coverage on YouTube and whatnot, Instagram and whatnot. Can you tell us what can you tell us about Ocampa?
Who?
Exactly. My man, this
ain't about Ocampa. This is about Errol Spence coming home and us celebrating, man. We've been we've been pushing and celebrating Errol Spence the past 3 years. His coming out party was probably against Bondu, you know what I mean? Right after the Olympics, he had 4.5 million people watching, 6.5, whatever the number was, right after the USA Olympic basketball team. And this is just our appreciation of Errol Spence. This is his Arturo Gatti day. You know what I mean? This is Terry Norris retiring Sugar Ray Leonard. You know, it's that moment. You understand what I'm saying? In his career where he's at home, it's a celebration, and it is what it is, man. It's the reality of it. If Ocampa makes it competitive, thank you. No one buying a ticket tomorrow does not expect this fight to go 6 rounds. This is an appreciation for Errol Spence coming from the bottom of Texas, going to the Olympics. And now in 2018, he's bringing back a belt home, and he's galvanizing the city in which he was born and raised in. That's it. That's all this is, man. And you got to give praise and respect to the Most High, Al Heyman, for believing in this guy, making it possible. And after we get through this fight, we get to the task at hand. I don't think none of these fighters wash each other. Everyone is saying, oh, it's going to be Errol Spence, Terence Crawford. I don't believe that one fucking bit. I think you have to go through hell to win at 147. I just believe that. That's just what I believe. I don't think none of these fights are a wash. I don't think so. People believe it, but you know, I've been in this game 10 years from a ringside perspective, and that's just what I believe, man. I just think that this 147. Don't go to the 7-Eleven and buy your popcorn. Go to Costco, because you're going to have to buy the big bag, because it's going to take some time, you know, and the fights are going to go 12 rounds. So don't think it's just going to be a quick stop. No, this ain't no quickie mart type of shopping. You got to go to Costco, man, because this 147 is going to be a marathon, and I'm excited. And like I said, you and I are fortunate enough. We're the vanguards of other people's boxing, you know what I mean? We're their curators, you know what I mean? You know what I mean? We're their liaisons, man. So we're in a great position. You and I cover fights together, man, and it's just exciting, man. You hear it in my voice. I'm fucking exuberant. I'm in a hotel room all by myself in Dallas, Texas, man. Excited as a motherfucker. First time in Dallas. I hate the Cowboys, and look out my window. What do I see? A fucking Dallas Cowboy practice facility. So
yeah,
you have it, man. So yeah, man, I'm enjoying myself, man.
With the exception of let's take Crawford out of the picture for a minute. But in your opinion, is there a fighter in another division that kind of enjoys all the advantages that Spence does at this moment? I mean, just his size, height, reach. You know, his commitment to his training, his attitude towards the sport. You know, how is there another guy out there who is like a perfect fit for his division more so than Spence right now?
Yeah, my nigga, Mr. Deontay, baddest man on the planet, Wilder, man. He is the epitome of what I believe that black fighters should be and what is. You know what I mean? A motherfucker that knocks you out, believes in himself, loves his black skin, and is willing to take on anyone. You know, and I had a 2-hour phone conversation with the guy 2 Saturdays ago. The motherfucker didn't want to hang up. I was like, Deontay, my house is burning. He said, nigga, go get some water. We got to finish this conversation. You know what I mean? So, you know what I mean? So it was just a good time, man. And man, he said, it was just awesome, man. Deontay Wilder is that nigga to me, man. Like, you know, he just is, man. And people say I give him too much high praise, but that's what I'm supposed to do with my black kings, man. I'm supposed to put them on a pedestal, and I'm supposed to hold them accountable, and I'm supposed to celebrate them in front of us and in front of all these white motherfuckers. When I talk about Deontay Wilder to you, I'm talking about him as excited as I am right now. If I'm talking to a white man, I'm talking to him as excited as I am as I'm talking to you, man. So that's just who I am, and I'm always going to be that dude, man. And Deontay Wilder's on top of the world right now. He got a man that has 3 belts and a guaranteed of minimum $50 million not signing the contract. Come on, man.
Wow.
I mean, come on, man. That makes no goddamn sense. I'll fight you for 10 pennies and shit. And motherfuckers say I give you $50 million? What? Niggas was lining up to fight Mike Tyson for $1 million. Remember that? I think I could beat Mike Tyson. Remember that whole campaign? You know, that silent campaign? Oh, you afraid? I ain't afraid. Mitch Green with a fucking softball eye and shit can only look out of one eye. I ain't afraid of Mike Tyson. Razor Ruddock, I ain't afraid of Mike Tyson. Carl the Truth Williams, I ain't afraid of Mike Tyson. Them niggas was lining up to fight Mike Tyson. Leon Spinks didn't even want to step in the ring, but you said you'll give me $10 million. I'll fight that nigga. Shit. I'm only gonna last one round, but I'm gonna fight that nigga. Shit. I ain't turning down. Only thing they were turning down in the 80s were they collars. Niggas turning down $50 million now. Come on.
Yeah, that's something else.
That's insane.
That's something else. Especially after they said that's what they wanted.
Yeah, that's what they wanted, man. Come on, man. Nothing gets in the way of me fighting somebody for $50 million, man. Nothing. We're not using guns. We're just using fists. Nothing. I will fight anyone in any weight class for $50 million.
Got you.
Period. End of discussion. I'm a novice fighter. I don't anticipate winning, but shit, I if that money is guaranteed, I'm fighting anybody. Anybody. I don't give a fuck who it is. Shit. You know what I mean?
Got you.
So,
all right,
yeah.
Just two more questions. I'll let you get back to your preparations for tomorrow
sure.
night. Where does your gut tell you Spence goes next? Like we just said, it could be 24, 26, 28 months to weigh all this out. But if the business of boxing gets in the way like it tends to do from time to time, are you excited in any of these other guys like your Danis, you guys, or
I mean, go ahead, finish your question.
Just are you? Would you be content with any of these other guys who are more than willing to step up and face Spence? Are you okay with watching those guys go at that task?
Shit, you mentioned the name Ugas. Shit, that is the most sturdiest 140s, one of the most sturdiest outside of the top 5 that no one's ever heard of. That's a bad motherfucker, Ugas. You know, he's a Cuban Olympian. Tough as nails. He just beat Ray Robinson, you know, on the Danny Garcia, Brandon Rios undercard. He's a bad motherfucker, man. And he's a bad motherfucker, man. He's sturdy, traditional, orthodox, great boxing pedigree. You know what I mean? He will be right in front of Errol Spence, and it'll be like a rock'em sock'em type of fight with the jab. You know what I mean? So. I wouldn't mind seeing that fight. Keep it real with you. People are going to be upset because they don't know who the fuck Ugas is. But Ugas, I mean, he had some losses early in his career, but the motherfucker's bad. Like, he can fight. Obviously, I want to see him fight the winner of Danny Garcia, Sean Porter, and you guys know I'm fucking with the home team on that. But you know what I mean? It is what it is. They got to fight. Whoever wins the green belt got to fucking unify. And you might. I'll be satisfied with a defense. You know, that makes sense. Errol Spence got one. You know, Errol Spence got his hometown defense. He got his voluntary defense. Give the WBC their hometown defense in 4 months. You know what I mean? And we get the fight in between baseball and at the end of the NBA season next spring, early summer. We get the fight we want. We all get to congregate in Brooklyn or in Vegas or Dallas. You know, I don't know where it's gonna be. You know what I mean? Hopefully it's not in LA because I want to travel. You know, so you know, I just want but you know what I mean? I think next summer we have a unification bout. The winner of Danny Garcia is probably going to fight in December, you know, January, and then we come right back to top of the summer. You know what I mean? End of spring, we got a unification bout. That's the reality of it. People want this shit right now, but, you know, their bodies got to hear. I say at least, for real, you know, I train professional fighters every day. It takes 2 months honestly, this is just what I believe. It takes 2 months for the swelling out of your brain to go down. You know, I just believe it, you know, because I see these guys beat up after a fight, you know what I mean? And just, you want them to be normal in their normal lives. Right, you know what I mean? No swelling on their face, you know what I mean? The cuts have healed. It takes at least 2 months to heal from a fight. You know what I mean? When they say, see, here's the funniest shit ever. Here's the funniest what people don't really truly comprehend. When the box totals come out, when the punch stats come out, they say he landed 189 out of 423 punches. They don't know 70 punches landed was to the fucking head.
Right.
You know what I mean? Let the motherfucker heal. I think it takes 60 days for the swelling and your brain frequencies and the liquids and the fluids to get back to normal, man. You know, like 100%, if it ever gets back to 100%, but at least 60 days. You know what I mean? And then you want to enjoy life. You just made $1 million. You want to enjoy the money, however much money you made. You want to enjoy that. If you have a family, you want to travel for 10 days, 2 weeks. You know what I mean? You don't want to go right back to the gym and dog it out. Man, nah, you don't want to do that shit. I mean, people, see, through yourself, you know others. You know what I mean? So I would never place superhuman responsibilities upon another man that I wouldn't put upon myself. If I know I'm making, every time I step in the ring, $1.5 million, you know what I mean? I'm just guesstimating, using round numbers.
Right.
Shit. Man, come on, let me enjoy it. You know, let me go buy an apartment building. Let me go take my family to Jamaica, Australia. Give me some time. We want that shit every 3 months. I get it. You know, we're selfish boxing fans. You know, I mean, we've never fought around in our life. You know, but we want what we want. You know, so you know what I mean. So at the end of the day, Ugas is a formidable opponent. Obviously, I want them guys to start fighting, but I think in all fairness, it should be big fight, voluntary, big fight, voluntary, big fight, voluntary until we get to the end, man. I'm just a realist. You know what I mean? I'm just people say I'm pragmatic. People say I'm crazy. People say I'm not a really boxing fan. I favor the business more, but you know, I'm a realist. You ain't listen, you're not getting Sean Porter, Danny Garcia, winner getting Errol Spence, Danny Garcia fight. I mean, the loser of Sean Porter, Danny Garcia fights Keith Thurman. The winner fights the winner of that fights the winner Errol Spence. You know what I mean? And then the winner goes straight to fight Terence Crawford. That shit ain't happening, man.
Doesn't happen.
That shit, because you actually kill the sport of boxing if that shit happens. You know what I mean? If everybody, here's the most powerful quote I probably can say on this podcast. If everybody gets exactly what they want, we will have the most upset people in the whole entire universe, because people will be organically jealous. So, I mean, it's not happening. It's not happening like that. It can't happen like that. If you think of that quote from a metaphysical perspective, you will fully understand where I'm coming from. But from a topical place, man, people are, you know what I mean, let it marinate. You know, let it marinate.
Well, that's why we don't know any of the UFC guys, because they keep facing the top guy, and it's in a condensed schedule. And like you said, these guys don't get a chance to heal up, and you facing the next best guy. And that's why, you know, the California Kid was one of my favorite UFC dudes coming over from that ECW or whatever. And
oh, really?
It was like after a couple of fights, he was a completely different dude than what he looked like.
Yeah.
You know, coming in the door. But that's neither here nor there. Let me get you out of here, man, because I gotta get my intro in and everything and get this posted tonight. What I did want to know.
Send me the link too. Make sure you send me the link. I'm gonna post it on my channel.
Will do. What I wanted to know, we don't have to dig into it too deep, but you and I were in the house a couple months. What was that? October or whatever it was. We were in the house taking in Easter Jr. and Fortuna. And we're both.
We sure were.
We were both
we always kicking in from Barclay.
Right. We were both a little disappointed in what we were seeing as far as ring generalship and whatnot.
Absolutely.
Just some early thoughts on Mikey Garcia and Robert Easter Jr. being made. And in addition to that, do you think pairing up with Kevin Cunningham can erase some of the stuff that we had a problem with in the Fortuna fight?
Yeah, I mean, the snapshot of that, he'll look like a different fighter for 2 rounds, and then he'll resort back to whoever he is. That's the short form of the answer. But the long form of it is Mikey Garcia was born to do this. He was bred to do this. He is the golden child of the Garcia family. That needs to be a title on one of my articles. He's just he has the IQ of a nun, of a saint, of a priest as it relates to boxing. You know what I mean? Can Robert Easter beat him? Absolutely. I think Robert Easter has every attribute you would desire to have, every physical attribute you would desire to have in a short man's weight class. You know, I mean, he has the reach, he has the intangibles, he has the athleticism.
Good power.
Can he put all that together on one night? You know, that is the biggest question that we will, you know what I mean, we will have. Will Odell Beckham be a Hall of Famer? He has all the attributes, you know what I mean? He has all the tools, you know what I mean? But will he be a Hall of Famer? You know what I mean? And or will he take plays off? You know what I mean? Or like same thing with Randy Moss. He had every fucking thing. I know I'm reaching a little bit, guys. You may not get it. I'm going back in the time capsule, and Randy Moss did end up reaching the Hall of Fame, but he took plays off. You know what I mean? He didn't play at 100% every night. You know, he got dogged by Chris Carter a lot. You know, Cole Pepper and Randall Cunningham was on him, real heavy on him a little bit. But at the end of the day, God gave Robert Easter everything. The hardest thing for Robert Easter to do is make 135. I don't give a fuck what he say. I don't give a fuck. He lies. Oh, I made weight easy. That nigga ain't make weight easy. You know how hard it is for a 6-footer to be 135 pounds? Get the fuck out of here. You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, the hardest thing you can do is make 135. So respect how hard you worked and make your intangibles tangible July 28th. If you can make your intangibles tangible, you will win the fucking fight. And will he do it? I don't know, because he was shooting the jab beautifully for 20 seconds against Fortuna, and next thing you know, they forehead to forehead fighting like two Mexicans. You know what I mean? So at the end, I don't know. That it looked like a fucking Rosarito fight, you know, like round 6, 7, 8. And I'm like, nigga, what are you doing?
Right.
You know, you're the tallest and the longest 135 we have seen. You look like Paul Williams in that motherfucker. You know what I mean? So, you know, I don't get it. You know what I mean? I genuinely don't get it, man. So I don't know. Will he do it? Will Kevin Cunningham be the answer? I don't know. You know, everyone has an ex-wife. I have no fucking idea. I don't know. Oh, she's the one. I don't know. Next 3 years later, that's your ex-wife. I don't know. Like, I don't know, man. You know, Kevin Cunningham has done a great job. He did a hell of a job with Tank Davis. Tank Davis came in a pound underweight. So kudos. I have to give respect to Kevin Cunningham. I have to give respect to the chef and everyone else that was involved in the camp, because that is the most ferocious, focused Tank Davis I've seen or been a part of. We were staying in the same hotel. The nigga wouldn't even give me an interview. I see the nigga 3 weeks later, he gave me a 45-minute interview. That's how focused the guy was. You know what I mean? So you know, at the end of the day, Kevin Cunningham has tangibles that can hopefully be implemented into Robert Easter. Obviously, Adrian Broner. He has Erickson Lubin, Richardson, Hitcherson. I know I'm fucking up their names, but and Tank Davis, and he has his first big time fighter. You know, not his first, but you know, his most popular, Devin Alexander. So you know, it's just, I mean, he's in a great space. Adrian Broner. It started with Adrian Broner. Next thing you know, he has the hotbed. You know what I mean? So it's exciting. I can't wait. Man, I'm just excited for July 28th, man. So the answer, I have no fucking idea. I'm going to do a prediction video probably July 26th or July 27th. I have no idea how that fight's going to go. If you put a gun to my head, I have to take Mikey Garcia just because of what I've seen. And, you know, he is the golden child of the Garcia family. So I have to do it. You know what I mean? If you want me to bet because let's say I have $500,000 in my pocket and I want to bet on the underdog that night. If my $10,000 will bring me back $18,000 back, I'm putting that shit on Robert Easter. You know what I mean? But I got to have $500,000. I got to be sure that shit, you know what I mean?
Right.
You know, so I don't know. I honestly don't know about that fight. July 26th, I'll have my answer. I watch Kevin Cunningham. I follow Kevin Cunningham. I follow Robert East. I watch that shit intently on them stories and all that shit. I rewatch all them 15-second clips and shit, man. I have no idea, man. I don't know right now. Like, you know, I'm also a fan of this shit too, man. You know what I mean? So.
Yeah,
So
I'm with you. I'm a realist myself, and you know, I'm pretty cool with some people on the bunny team and whatnot, and I see them running out already with their predictions of what's going to happen. And of course, you would support your man. I get that, and I am in Ohio, and I try to get interviews with Robert Easter Jr. and whatnot. And but like you said, I can't ignore what I see. Just even not from, you know, the little bit of analysis that I do as a, you know, in analyzing the game, just as a boxing fan, I see what I see. And at some point in time, there has to be a certain level of separation in these victories for me to be comfortable to just, without any analysis, to say, hey, he gonna win that fight. No, I'm seeing what I'm seeing, and I can't ignore that.
Yeah, you're right. You're right, man.
So I'm like you. I'll probably, you know, because I don't want no unnecessary BS. And you know, I know some guys in the big time media, you know, they don't review certain things, or they don't pick certain things. So I may not give my prediction on that one. I might just be slick and put out a you know, a couple keys to victory type thing for both guys, and just kind of stay. just
that's the safe way to do it. You know what I mean? That's the safe way to do it. You know, protect your relationship.
Yeah, just
you
stay neutral.
I mean?
Just stay neutral. Hey, well, look, man. I appreciate your time, man, and thanks for coming on and helping me out tonight, because I didn't really.
Come on, man. Come on. You called me 5 minutes ago, and I said, yeah.
No.
Like, I had a rib in my mouth. And I was like, all right, fuck it, let's go.
Well, look.
Check my IG. I was eating with the family and my boxing family and shit when you hit me, man. You know what I mean?
Right.
How you do one thing is how you do everything, man. So you know what I mean?
Right. Well, the invite was intentional, because I know you flexible like that, and we got our history and everything.
Okay.
So it was intentional.
You know what I mean?
I didn't just go and send an invite to just anybody.
I got you, dog. Yeah, I got you.
Hey, thanks for your time, man. And you know,
I'll
shoot this to you when we get it up.
Put your make sure your intro is so people know. You know what I mean? At the top of this video, because I'm gonna pull it.
Okay.
So send me the link after it's done, and I'm gonna pull it, and I'm gonna tell all my subscribers, Barbershop Conversations, man, pay me no motherfucking mind.
Thank you,
Go
sir.
to this motherfucking channel. This is my nigga. We cover fights together, man, and man, we just out here grinding, man, and all we want to do is ask y'all questions and promote the sport of boxing, man. That's our goal, man, and I thank you guys for supporting me on my channel, but now we got to support another brother, and let's do it, man. I'm gonna put the link in my description box, and we gonna blow up his YouTube channel. So go ahead, like how they say, we gonna shut this we gonna shut the Waffle House down, nigga. We gonna blow up his subscriber list. Go to him and subscribe, baby. Don't mind, man. Appreciate you, King.
And we probably running. I may get with you offline and see if you can help me out if I do make it out there for the Garcia and Easter Jr. But other than that, if not, I'm gonna kick it with you at Porter and Garcia.
Oh yeah, all good. Oh, I can't. Okay, I gotta be quiet on that. Okay, because I'm in the camp, so I can't.
Right.
Anyway, all right.
Take care, man.
Right.
Take care.
All right.
All right, welcome back to the show, my man Jamel Herring, Semper. What's going on, man?
Man, what's going on, bro? Everything's good out here.
That's good. Where you at right now in the country?
I'm back in Cincinnati with the family right now, man.
Okay. You still in school, man, or you in break right now, or what's going on with school?
Man, I'm always grinding, man. I'm back in school. I done picked up 2 other classes just for the summer.
Okay. Just to let y'all know, anybody listening, you know, these guys are juggling families and, you know, school and doing a lot of real life stuff. We'll come back to some of that and how it ties in. I didn't get to talk to you in New York, man, up at Madison Square Garden before your last victory. What was that, a 5th round stoppage against Juan Pablo Sanchez?
Pablo Sanchez, yep.
How'd it feel fighting in your hometown? I mean, I'm gonna be honest with you. You know, I got to see you up on the big screen as you were walking out of the tunnel, and it seemed like you came out and you had a slight look of disappointment on your face because it was kind of thin in there at that point as far as people arriving to the fight. But you did your thing and took care of business. So was it the experience you were looking forward to in returning home?
I mean, yeah, sort of, man. Like, and then, you know what I'm saying? When I was walking out there, I looked at it as like, you know, an audition. And what I mean by that is, you know, that was my first fight with Top Rank. So I knew I had to basically, you know, make a statement and just go out there and handle business. And then, because I knew afterwards, greater things would come. But at the end of the day, like I said, when the crowd that was there started getting into it, that's when I started feeling the energy. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I felt like people started filling in maybe more so in round 2 or 3. You know, a crowd got in there and you know, then the crowd got in, got settled, and saw what was going on. This was your first fight out with Bo Mac, I believe Brian McIntyre, which is also, you know, trainer of Bud Crawford and Terence Crawford and everything. What did you see differently in yourself, man?
You know, for starters, man, I felt like I was having fun again. You know what I mean? Because you know, with my last team, you know, I still love Mike Stuff and everybody to death, but everybody was on the same page. You know, and I felt like at one point I was being pushed to the side, and at the time, more of the focus was basically solely on Adrian and Bronner. You know what I mean? So I felt like, you know, Bo Mac, Red, and John Warner, that I had a lot more attention on me, even though we got Terence Crawford in the camp as well, but they know how to work it as everybody gets the same amount of attention throughout the camp. And, you know, like I said, when we all started working and flowing with the chemistry, it started to become fun again. So everything went great.
What were some things that you were, you know, that you wanted to implement this time out, technique-wise? I mean, I felt like I felt like you looked different. It felt like it seems like you was trying to do some things to bait him in. It seems like in the last fight against the Memphis cat, maybe you stayed inside a little bit too much unnecessarily. And I felt like in here, you know, maybe you were working on some reaction and timing and counter punching and whatnot. Maybe set some traps for the guy. It just seemed like you were a lot sharper. So was there anything specific that you wanted to implement?
For starters, we want to show that I can still be, you know, sharp and perform well at a low weight class. Because remember now, I had never fought under anything under 135 pounds. You know, we're making a move to 130, and we want to prove that I can make the weight and still be strong and effective. But in terms of, like, you know, working with my new trainers and everything, you know, we want to be more of a boxer puncher. You know what I mean? Instead of just being so one-dimensional. Like you said, you know, sitting in the pocket too long, or this fight, or, you know, boxing from the outside throughout the whole fight on this, you know, in another fight. We want to basically show that, you know, we can counter, we can, you know, catch and shoot, we can box, we can hold our ground. You know, I was sitting on my punches more, as you seen, because, like I said, I chose to fight Sanchez because I seen that he never been stopped in like 6 years. And, you know, he fought other like top prospects like Tefimo Lopez and another cat that Golden Boy has over there. And, you know, I wanted to prove that, you know, that I was able, you know, to do something that the other cats couldn't do. So that was the main reason why we wanted that with Sanchez as well.
All right. Like I said, congratulations on the win, man. I wish I could have spoke with you that night, but I was sitting up at the top and really couldn't move around the way that I wanted to. So,
nah, it's all good. Like I said, you know, we gonna catch it regardless, man. So I was like, man, I gotta get to my man. Thank you.
Right. So, well, let's switch for a minute. We'll come back to when we'll see you again. I want that to be the last thing that you leave listeners with.
Yeah.
But what was your thoughts? I mean, you were in camp with Bud in his preparations for Jeff Horn and his debut at 147 and going for his title in the third weight class and everything.
Right.
You know, what do you think was beneficial in camp, man? I see you guys having a lot of fun. And this doesn't translate from Bud when we see him in front of the microphone and whatnot. I find out more about him and his personality and what I think is appealing about the guy, more so in some of the Instagram stories that you guys shared.
Yeah, exactly, man. And it's crazy because I know our PR manager wanted me to keep pushing it out because, like you said, man, everybody, when they see Bud or they see him on TV or interviews, he's really straightforward. You know, he has a demeanor about him. But, like, you know, in camp, you know, he could be a big kid and, he likes to have a lot of fun. And, you know, and like everybody in the house at the time, you know, we all got along and, you know, we all had a great time. Because, like I said, we were together for, like, because, you know, the whole injury and the setback, we was in the same household based from February all the way up to, you know, May, June time frame. So we was clicking, you know, so we was all clicking like family. But in terms of, like, you know, in the gym, it was good to have him because he was always on my case. And I mean by that is, like, you know, he was hard on me, but he was like, you know, he was doing it for the right reasons. You know, he wanted to see me succeed. So he was always, you know, look over everything I was doing, and he was trying his best to help me correct me, and I appreciated it, you know what I mean? So we all got along, and, you know, we all became closer as time went on.
Okay. So we didn't get a chance to talk beforehand because I kind of wanted to get your prediction and whatnot, but I think, you know, pretty much I think we all kind of had a good idea of what was going to happen and that Bud was going to show the different levels that existed between him and Horn. Was his performance more even greater than what you might have thought going in?
I mean, you know me, I expected it, man. Like, I wasn't really, you know, getting into all the topics with people saying that, you know, what is Horn's this? We all knew that he was more skillful. That was not even a question. You know, the thing was, people really want to see how he would handle the weight, and I felt that, you know, he surpassed, you know, a lot of people's predictions in terms of, you know, because you look at it, he was really kind of bullying Horn to make a point. You know what I mean? He could have easily outboxed him and did whatever, but he wanted to show that, you know, that he was big enough and strong enough to handle his own in the weight class, and that's what basically stood out to me more. You know, I always thought that he was gonna stop him regardless, because I know how strong he is, but, you know, I felt like if anything, he made a statement to all the other top welterweights out there, and I think he made a clear case that he belongs in the division.
Okay. Now how does it matter? And I put a little piece out there, kind of, you know, how I analyzed it and what I took away from the fight. But I'd like to get a fighter's perspective on it, and somebody that's actually doing it and being in training camp and whatnot. I didn't feel like Horn gave us enough of a what to go on when we look towards a Crawford and a Spence matchup.
Yeah.
And Spence is a big 47 guy. And his pressure and everything, his attack comes in a much different way, more skillful, more intentional, everything. And then when I look at Peterson coming up to you know, to face Spence last time out, being a guy just coming up from junior welterweight. How do you think Bud matches up with Spence when we do see those guys, you know, whenever that does happen? I know it's some stuff that has to fall in place for that to happen, but do you think he showed enough to be confident that he's strong enough to get in there and bang with somebody like Errol Spence?
I believe he did, man. I think the reason why we didn't get to see, you know, what we wanted to see from Horn, because Horn, you know, after a while, Horn didn't know what to do because of, you know, Bud's ring IQ. You know what I'm saying? He couldn't. His whole thing, we all knew, he even played out multiple times, but his whole thing was to go in there and try to bully and use his size and weight. Once we seen that he couldn't do that, and he seen it for himself, he had to do his own plan B. So that was on him. Now, you know, that's my boy. Matter of fact, I'll tell you straight up, I put the EJ throughout the whole camp. Like, me and EJ still close. Like, EJ even told me, he was like, look, man, I want all the work out. I want all the work out. I want to, including Bud. I said, hey, man, you know what I'm saying? I look at it as a sport. You both of y'all my brothers, and I wish I had the best of luck. But, like I said, in terms of that matchup, I call it a 50-50 because they have their different traits and weapons, But I believe it depends on who brings their A game at the same time. And like I said, man, Errol, he's a dog. Bud knows that. We all, like the whole team knows that Errol's a dog. Like, you know, we want to see Errol succeed. We want to see that matchup. You know what I mean? So it's like, you know, right now, they basically, you look at it, basically, the both of them are like on social media, but they're being cool about it because, you know, they want to see each other succeed because they know once that fight is made, it's going to be a big event. But like I said, they all have their weapons in place, but I believe it all comes down to, you know, who's you know, the smaller man. Like I said, it's a chess match. It's going to come down to a chess match. You know, there might be some spots that they might, you know, get into brawls here and there, but I know EJ is smart enough to know, you know, that Bud is not going to be crazy enough to, you know, to sit there and bang with him all day. At the same time, and, you know, the same goes with Bud. Like, Bud's not stupid. You know what he's getting at with. So, like I said, I'm looking forward to it as a fan. So I love, like, you know, in that way, I would want to fight because I love them both. But like I said, at the end of the day, it's a business, it's a sport, you know, and I just wish them both the best of luck.
If whatever you can share, you know, I know in working out with Bud and being in camp and whatnot, and I know you guys say some stuff off the record and you know, it's personal between you guys. But when I look at Bud and like willingly accepting that challenge, and looking forward to that challenge where some people in the division won't even mention Spence's name. Where does that come from, man? I mean,
he's hungry and he's competitive. Like, just like how, you know, recently Errol was mentioning on an interview with Showtime how, you know, the money and everything is one thing, but, you know, he wants to have a legacy. And then the same thing with Bud. You know, he wants to fight those guys that people say that are either better or bigger or this and that and the third, because he heard it throughout most of his career. Look at it, you know what I mean? You before guys like you see people saying that he was ducking Felix Diaz. You know, Lou DiBella was out there. Lou was put out there, you know, talking like I'm trying to catch it to fight Diaz. When he fight Diaz, it's like, he was the better. We all knew now. We all knew he was out there. They said they took the postal. So like, Bud, we used to hear everything. That's why he like doing here and proving people you know wrong. And like even with EJ, like I said, I think with EJ one as well. He's just like, man, look, he's just hungry. You know, of course he wants to you know, the Thurman, the Danny Garcia, the Sean Porters, but you know, like I said, he's not, you know, afraid to call out Bud's name either. So that's what I like about them both. You know, they're both hungry. They both, you know, just want to prove who basically is number one. They don't want to go to the whole, you know, we got the weight class where the number ones are not fighting each other like, you know, the Stevensons, the Kovalev. They don't want to go through that. So, that, I mean, like I said, I see somebody in the both of them, and I just like, you know, I respect their hunger.
Yeah. Like I said, one thing that I mentioned repeatedly on the podcast is that, you know, the guys who are real tough verbally and abrasive and say a whole lot and talk a lot of trash and call people out, that's one way to go about it. But I have so much more respect for the guys who act like a true gentleman, you know, and super civilized when doing the interview and doing the interviews and you know, showing up at the you know, in between the fights on some of the cards and talking with the host of the show and you know, just act like a regular athlete from one of the major three sports, but then get in the ring and really release that dog and be that savage. That's a little more impressive to me, is the guys that can turn it on and really you know, be physical and maybe even press the rules a little bit when necessary. That's a little bit more impressive to me than the guys who kind of who seem like they have to work themselves into that type of rage or build that dog for themselves, you know, by doing all the rah-rah stuff.
Exactly, man. Like I said, and that's what I respect most. Like I said, I mentioned to them, I mean, when they have their words, and, you know, back on social media, it never comes off disrespectful. You know, they come off, you know, they respect one another. You know, at the same time, we both know when they get in that ring, man, they know their business. Just like, you know what I'm saying, I know Errol, he was rooting for, you know, for Bud to go out there and handle his business last week. But then yesterday, you see they put out a tweet that, you know, he's rooting for EJ to go in here tomorrow night and, you know, do his thing. Because, you know, they want to see some keys because, you know, they know, you know, at the end of the day, when when people talk about Bucky history, they're excited to be, one of the mega fights that we speak upon in terms of like, the Londons and Hearns and them. You know what I mean?
Right.
But like I said, like you point out, I respect how they handle themselves outside the ring just as much as they handle themselves inside the ring.
Right. I don't know, your phone is kind of breaking out. Like once you get to talking, it kind of breaks out. I just don't want anybody to miss what you're saying. It gets a little muffled or something. I don't know if you're moving or something, but I just don't want.
No, I don't know what's wrong. I'm in one spot, just sitting here.
Okay. Well, before we move on to my last question, my last two questions, just I don't know much about this Carlos Ocampa guy. He's a mandatory. But what I will say is I appreciate the fact that, and it's kind of, I don't want to say typical in a negative way, but it's kind of common for a Mexican fighter. He got on the press conference or the media call, and he said, I'm not here to be a fan of the Dallas Cowboys. I'm not here to be a fan of Errol Spence Jr. I came here to fight my fight and to win this title and take advantage of my opportunity. And, I can at least respect, the serious approach for the game, but I don't know much about the guy. Do you, or is there any way that he can, be a bit of a surprise, maybe in somewhat the way that the Mungaya, or whatever his name is, Jaime?
I'm with you, bro. I don't know much about him myself. And, me being a little boxer, I'm not going to count anybody out. You know what I mean? He's there for a reason. But, like I said, I just know what EJ can do. You know what I mean? I hope, for the sake of being your fan and entertaining, but, from what I've seen, when people said that have watched him, I don't think that, he may not back up as much as he's saying, but, we can only see. But, like I said, I hope that EJ gets past this fight so, we can move on to the bigger and better fights.
Okay. Yeah, like I said, I'm just tuning in. I didn't even really bother putting one of my analysis pieces together for this week. I'm just gonna sit back and watch it, and just want to see, what we see, the continued growth that we're seeing in Errol Spence Jr. So speaking of another Olympic teammate of yours, the following week on Showtime, actually next Friday night on June 22nd. Claressa Shields, she has her fight up in Detroit. It's a kind of a women's Final Four, middleweight division. Claressa's going for her second, her title, world titles at her second weight class. I don't know how much you've had or how much you've paid attention to Hannah Gabriels and whatnot. I've watched a couple of fights of her in the build up, or trying to get some eyes on her before fight night. What's your thoughts on this challenge? With Claressa coming down from super middleweight, dropping 8 pounds, and facing somebody with a lot more experience, and somebody that seemed to be motivated to fight her for a chance, more so than the Nikki Adlers and some of the other females that I've seen. Hannah Gabriels actually, once the fight was made, she actually announced it on Instagram way before it was even announced. So she really seems motivated at this opportunity.
I mean, like I said, I sat there with the last fight we spoke with Errol. I haven't really got a chance to actually, do my own analysis as well. But I heard great things about her. You know what I mean? And like I said, I do see that she's a lot motivated than Claressa's past opponents. I just want to see how, I just want to see how, basically, for starting, how Claressa handles the weight cut, and and then as well as dealing with an opponent that has, of course, much more experience. But I'm looking forward to a good fight. I know Claressa's hungry. We see that. We see how she responds to certain things and questions that live on social media. But I know she's hungry. Like I said, I know she can be a dog in the gym. So, like I said, I'm looking forward just to a good fight. Honestly, I hope it's a competitive fight because, like I said, she's been, her last few fights been so one-sided that she's been making it look too easy. So, I'm looking forward to somebody actually giving her, some work, because it also helps her build as a pro as her career goes on. Because she needs to face, once she faces some adversity, she'll adjust to it. and she'll respect it. She'll respect maybe how to deal with it better in the future, because like I said, we're still looking for the the Christina Hammer matchup as well. So we're gonna, like I said, let's just see how it goes out. But I hope it's, like I said, it's a competitive fight overall.
What's your expectations, or what difference do you think working with John David Jackson could make in her how she performs or looks on fight night? I didn't know a whole lot about her previous coach, Jason Crutchfield. I hadn't seen him work with many other fighters to kind of get a sense of, what he specializes in and whatnot. But we have seen John David Jackson working with quite a few world champions and contenders and whatnot. Is there anything that you could imagine, that he could add value to the situation?
I think with him, he's gonna have her place her shots a lot better, and have her, because he's working on a couple of her past recent fights. She could just throw to be thrown. She can throw, he throws a lot of shots, but she's not placing them at times. I think with John David Jackson, she's gonna have that same output, but she's gonna basically be able to know when and where to place her shots better. Because we've seen him do great work with a lot of world champions in the past. Lately, like I said, his last champion he's been having was Kovalev as well. Kovalev knew how to place. He hit you with a jab, with a body shot. So I think we're gonna see her. Her dynamic is gonna change a lot with John David Jackson. But like I said, we can only wait and see.
All right. I'm imagining you guys being teammates and everything, keeping in touch on social media and whatnot. I would imagine you saw the last fight with Tori Nelson that was on Showtime up in Verona, New York, I believe. Nelson kind of didn't. I didn't see her off. I didn't see what I was looking for offensively from her, being that she's a veteran and a former world champion. Everything. It looked like it was some shortcomings there, but she's going into a fight with Hammer, and from what I understand, Hammer likes to move a whole lot. Kind of has that European style. Wants to stay outside, use her length. But she's been knocked down. I had Kaylee Reese on the show a couple episodes ago, and Kaylee Reese said she put her down late in the fight. So she could be touched. From what you saw against Claressa, do you think that Tori Nelson has enough to maybe land that one shot to maybe cause Hammer some trouble?
I believe she does, but I believe at the same time, that Hammer may have, that footwork capability to give Claressa some fits, depending on how the fight goes. Because, like I said, with Tori Nelson, I think her moral victory is basically surviving the fight. And she was trying to move at times or trying to bang and slug it out. But like I said, she didn't show me what I was expecting for her, as well as being a veteran. So like I said, I think her moral victory was basically surviving. But I know, Claressa in the past, at least in the amateur days, with her, she doesn't like fighters that move. And I believe that's one thing that Hammer's gonna obviously pick up on upon, because I don't think she's crazy enough to sit there in front of Claressa. So we'll just see it all comes down to who brings who has a better game plan, because you'd be a fool to sit standing at the Claressa. And I think Hammer being a veteran herself, I don't think that's what she plans on doing.
Gotcha. All right, man. Well, I appreciate your analysis and talking about other fighters, man. But I did want to get with you on. Looks like I saw a couple, maybe last week or so. You said the cuts were healing up from the headbutts and whatnot against Sanchez, and it looked like you might be a month out from camp. What's the schedule for you moving forward?
Like I said, for now, I should be heading back out to Omaha to start my training camp, and of course finish it in Colorado Springs. But right now, we're looking at September 8th. I know Bomac had a meeting with Top Rank, I believe, yesterday, in terms of more details and getting a location. But right now, we're looking at September 8th to return.
All right. Looking forward to the return of Power, man. I know we had a couple conversations on Twitter and whatnot about Power. I think it's going into season 5, maybe. What's your expectations on it, man?
Man, I just want to see how well they work with Cannon crazy. Yeah. You know, that's what I'm looking forward to see. You know, how well those Tommy and Ghost work with Cannon. But I think it's gonna be. I think we're gonna see another great season of the show, man. So I'm looking forward to it, bro.
Okay. Now I've been a little critical of the show because I was expecting some different things when it first came out, and it's kind of evolved to what it is. And now, you know, the direction that they've chosen to take the show in, I just don't take it as serious as like a real street, or you know, a show that's really based on the game. It's a completely different spin on things. But like you said, did you ever foresee? I guess you probably wouldn't, but it's just odd now that Kanan. What do you think went into the decision of bringing him in? Because we hated Kanan in seasons 1 and 2, and now here it is in 5. You know, we're gonna be rooting for the guy because we hate Drake.
Pretty much. That's exactly what it is too, man. Like we couldn't. No one could stand him. Like I said, he just did a hell of a job portraying that character in the first season. But I think, like I said, everybody's focus now is basically, you know, how they gonna get at Dre, because where we from, we don't do the backstabbers, you know, how dudes just flip on you like that. So I think that's what it's coming down to.
Right. Now, last question though, Power. Did you like how they built Dre up? I mean, I talked about it a couple podcasts ago. That's been the weakness of Power, is that they've never really dug too deep into the street side of it and how Ghost and Tommy's organization really works. But it just seemed like, Dre, how you gonna become the plug and you don't have no money, no army? Like, he just came in with a bunch of lies.
Yeah.
And
it's
now
like
the man
Dre had one meeting, and they full trust in him to take over. I ain't get that either. I was like, if anything, the way they like how it was building, I thought they was gonna get rid of Dre early, because, like I said, it wasn't a phase where you see him slowly building an empire on his own. It was like you said, 1 minute he's under Ghost and scared. He's scared of Cannon, and the next minute he out here making power moves and shit. I don't know, man.
So that's, like I said, man. I had to let it go because it's just not as well thought out as something like The Wire. But I have to respect it as its own show and whatnot. But
it's like they rushed. They could have did better with Dre's storyline and building up. It's like they kind of rushed it. You know what I mean? Looked over it, or
my man just had the crown all of a sudden. I was like, damn.
Right. He got backing and everything.
Right. Hey, well, man, I appreciate you short notice and everything, but I knew we were going to talk and everything, so I thought I'd take a shot on you before I posted this episode and everything. Good to see you get back in the winning column, man, and hopefully I'll stay tuned.
Oh, and don't pay none of that Tank Davis that Tank drama anymore.
I wasn't even gonna say nothing, man. I wasn't even gonna say.
I was gonna bring it just for a good laugh, man. Like you said, man. I'm still trying to figure out where Tank was coming from, but I told everybody, hey, I felt honored because I'm rebuilding my career. So it's like, if a world champion calling you out, hey, you must be doing something right, or you must be some type of threat.
Hey,
but
man,
it's all good.
Hey, before we do go back to boxing real quick, man, what's your early thoughts? We don't have to get into no prediction or anything, but with you being in the middle of the About Billions camp and Adrian and seeing E-Bunny come through, what's your thoughts on his matchup with Mikey Garcia, man?
I mean, like I said, he's another one who also made a change in his camp, because Mikey is not an easy fight. So, like I said, I give, like I said, I'm always going to root and support my boys. But like I said, it's not gonna be an easy bout. But if he definitely gets his win, it's gonna be obviously his best career win.
Yeah, like I said, I got a brother, another boxing writer on this episode too, and I was telling him, I might just do an analysis and not really say who I think is gonna win the fight, because I don't know if I'm going to get a chance. It's not like they're going to have a 24/7 or all access where I can see what's going on in training camp, to see how, to see the impact of what Kevin Cunningham is going to have on E-Bunny. So I might just look at it. But like I said, I think for me, in looking at the past, one thing I tip my hat to Robert for taking a look at what he's doing and where he is in his career and making a change, and just like yourself and whatnot, and being aware of the stakes of everything.
I mean, yeah, and going back to that camp, like I said, even though, like I said, me and Tank had our little, back and forth with him, but I actually was supportive of commending him for making that same move to Kevin, because people could say, oh, well, we fighting over a year, moving up. I felt that, Tank at least was more disciplined in terms of, making the weight, and he just looked a lot more sharp. In that fight.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's the respect I give. I give him that respect. So I think that Kevin is doing a great job with those guys, and like I said, I'm looking forward to seeing this with Robert.
Yeah, like I said, it's a tough one because Mikey is so technically sound, and he's a great thinker in the ring, a lot of ring IQ and all of that. And I just think for Robert Easter Jr., it was just a matter of, you're gonna be on the world championship level and winning fights. It's got to be a certain degree of separation in those victories for us to have a lot of confidence in you to just face anybody. And when you get to facing some of the guys who have had that separation in their victories against various opponents, it'd be difficult for me to just say it's a wrap that Easter Jr. is going to win that fight.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like I said, the majority of the public is pointing obviously towards Mikey, but like I said, I want to to give Robert the benefit of the doubt. Like, not just because he's my boy, but like I said, any fighter that's willing to make a change, you have to take him. He's taking it serious about his career. So I'm really looking forward to seeing, how things go down next month.
Yeah, like I said, I just got some early thoughts on it, and that's the first major change point is that he changed up camp. He's moved his camp down to Florida, I believe, and we'll see what happens on fight night. It's a great opportunity for him, and it's got to be a little awkward facing a guy who took apart, your mentor and big brother and whatnot, and now you have a shot at him. But he put all that aside, and on fight night, go in there and do his thing.
Exactly, and it gives him an opportunity to open up doors to bigger and better things. So, best of luck for that dude.
True. Hey, man, I appreciate your time, boss. And until next time, I keep in touch with you on Twitter and Instagram, bro.
All right, all love, bro.
Peace.
Peace.